Hampton Roads has a long-running high school and college sports tradition. It's time to give them the spotlight they deserve. This is 757 Sports Talk. Here are Matt Hatfield and Coach Ed Young.
Good Saturday morning to all of you out there, and welcome to another installment of 757 Saturday Sports Talk right here on CoVA Sports TV. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. I am back from my short, and I do mean short, trip, hiatus, whatever you want to call it, to Pensacola, Florida. I was covering the Sun Belt Women's Basketball Tournament and sitting down looking at it. Is he praying? I don't know. He's not looking up at the screen. He's praying. He's praying for me. Maybe he's praying after what he watched. I don't know. And he was a couple minutes late, folks, because he had to walk the dog, although I claim the dog was walking him. Ed Young, good morning.
Many times, good morning, sir. Many times it is that he walks me. He's in the lead. I don't have any issue with that as long as he gets me back. Good Saturday morning. It's a nice Saturday morning out there. It's not rainy. There's no snow. A little on the windy side. It's beautiful, beautiful spring day in this first day of the rest of our lives for us who did awaken today. And whole lot to talk about. I'll say it. Jam-packed show. One thing, though, people, let me apologize. Let me be the one to apologize.
What are you apologizing for?
I did not approve of the opening.
What's wrong? We don't need another hero. We got you. You're the hero.
I this to people through the week. Every once in a while, I send out on Facebook some of the things I have to put up with this nut job here. And I've gotten a lot of response back. People say I'm being blessed. The Lord will watch over me because I have led this fellow through some tough times. And that opening was not approved. If we were FCC regulated, I would probably be off the air right now. And I just apologize for it. Please understand, I had nothing to do with that opening.
Well, by the way, we're going to have a new segment later on in the program. It's going to be Ask Coach Young. So if you have a question for Coach Young out there, any of you can send in a video of it, and we'll play your question for Coach Young. And I'm going to start off with the first one. It's going to be a new segment. We might not do it every week. It might be periodically, like when we do our buy or sell, our fact or fiction, our over-under games, different things we do. So you are more than welcome to embark on finding out what is in Ed Young's brain, which is a very, very scary thing. And he'll give you his insight to all matters in the world of sports and beyond. But Ed, the state championship games are here. I don't know why I'm hearing an echo. It must be on your phone or something. And we have the matchups for all of you. What a zany night, and I do mean zany night of Virginia High School League State Semifinal games that we had on Friday while I was in the airport from Pensacola to Atlanta back to Norfolk watching it. I did, Mr. Cheat Me, I did pay for the little Wi-Fi pass. You know how much that pained me. Did pay for it. But I have to ask you, one thing that I can't travel without my air shocks. You know what those are, right? My little ear things I put over my head. People see me with those all the time. You know what I did like a dummy? I lost my original air shocks, the little charging thing for it, so it doesn't die. And I ordered a new one this morning because I checked all my suitcase, my bag. I got in at midnight, all this luggage. And it didn't dawn on me. I already had one of these from years ago. So I spent $15 plus shipping and tax and all that for one of them. I could just got the old one and just use that as a charger. I didn't think so. I still had the box from the old one that had it in there, and I didn't, You ever done that before? That's very nerve-wracking and depressing when you do that. You just threw $15 down the drain.
Yeah, you spend for something that later you found you already had it.
You already had, yeah.
You wasted that money, and it's too late to take it back, or you don't have the receipt. I have done that over the years on some things, and you just look the other way and just simply say, well, I now have an extra one, and use it as necessary when necessary. That's all.
We've got a jam-packed show of guests, including you see on the screen here, our first guest coming up in about 8-10 minutes or so. He's the head basketball coach of the reigning Class 6 state champion South Lake Seahawks, who will be playing another guest we have later on the show. We have some outside the 757 guests, and you say, well, isn't this 757 Saturday Sports Talk? Well, yes, it is, but a lot of times those teams will beat the 757 teams or vice versa, or they'll be getting ready to play a 757 team. So we've got Mike Desmond of South Lake's coming on the show. We've got, congrats to him getting back to the title game. We got Doug Craig, who you watched last night in Chesapeake. They beat Oscar Smith, knocked out the Tigers. He's coming on the show 11 o'clock. We got Greg Maynard of the Albemarle Patriots, who are playing Green Run in the state finals at VCU. How bad were our picks? I've been gloating and bragging about hitting 90% almost in the state playoffs and regional playoffs. My picks were miserable yesterday because there were a lot of results that nobody saw coming. They can claim they did, lying through their teeth or tooth. Or if they're toothless, they're just lying through their mouth, I guess. So we also have coming up on the show some playbacks from the winning coach of last night's Class 5 state semifinal that you took in Virginia Beach. And you were busy because you went from one venue to another, as we'll show the brackets and go through some of the scores here momentarily. So, yeah, pretty crazy stuff that took place on Friday night across the 757 and beyond, huh?
Yeah, I elected to see Smith Woodson. Kind of just thought it might be a closer game than the others. Plus, I've only seen Woodson play once, and they beat Kings Fork, and I wanted to see them again because I thought it'd be a contrast in style. Hey, Gene is chiming in from, I think, North Carolina.
You love Gene Jones. And John Huffman chiming in. And I know some people in the 757 will not like that, but I mean, I don't know if someone's out-coached as much as Doug Craig's a darn good coach. Let's just say that. People always want to use out-coached and outplayed. And I'm going to give a quick little thing for you to do. People are beating up Woodside and Northside today. Listen, Woodside and Northside, tip your hat to them. Back-to-back state championships is hard to do. Let's give credit to Green Run and Spotswood. I did this last night on Twitter. They knocked off two-time defending state champs that were expected to go get a three-peat, which is not easy. And they're not chops liver. They're very good programs with really good coaches. So Chad Edwards at Spotswood, Kenneth Harris at Green Run, they're not newbies at this. They've been there before. This might be new to you, or it might be new to us, but it ain't new to them. All right? I mean, come on. And DeCarlos Greyhound says, shout out to Coach Harris. Go ahead.
Yeah, again, watching Smith Woodson, it was a good coaching matchup as well as player matchup. And I'm not, John, I understand what you're saying, and I'm hoping maybe you're a Oscar Smith fan and you're just maybe a little upset. And everybody's entitled to their opinion. Morning, Dan. Doug's game plan was well suited for what Oscar Smith does. And Oscar Smith, I've seen play 4 or 5 times this year, didn't make enough shots that they normally make. And Woodson kept the game down low. Woodson did not hold the ball. Somebody asked me last night, because I drove from Smith all the way over to Ocean Lakes, which seemed like 2 time zones, because I was some ungodly backwoods.
2 time zones?
Yeah, it was a long time to get there from.
Did you use the GPS, or did you just go off your head?
No, I had to use GPS because there's no way I would have found the route they gave me. There's no way. I didn't even know that land existed. But I got there. I got there late third quarter, but I figured I would be anyways because Smith Woodson started at 6. The Green Run game, I think, started around 7:30-ish. So I knew I was going to be late. But anyways, the Smith Woodson game was good to watch in terms of the matchup of the coaches. And LeVar did some good things. It's just a situation where they didn't do what they normally do. And I'm going to put a lot of that on Doug Craig at Woodson. And, we're going to talk about John Marshall.
Just keep going. Well, the comments will roll. Just keep going. I know you
we will see that Woodson had it executed a well game plan, and Smith didn't hit the shots. So I'm not going to sit here and say Coach Griffin got outcoached. We go Green Run and Woodside. I only can talk about second half.
By the way, which atmosphere was better, real quick? Because you were at both gyms. Which atmosphere?
Green Run. Ocean Lakes was more packed than Smith Gym was.
By the way, that's also helped by the fact there's 2 games as opposed to 1. So you got a little bit of a beach crowd left over from Princess Anne girls beating Menchville, which was a good game, by the way. Menchville was up at halftime and into the third quarter until PA hit a run. So that probably helped with a little more of a flow afterwards. Yeah.
Right. And much more crowded and much more excitement in the gym. And from what I saw, again, great game plan for Kenny Harris and Green Run. And Woodside missed shots that I have not seen them miss much this year. And Woodside, Stephon Welsh, I think, did an excellent coaching job this year. I've seen him play 4 or 5 times. think he did an excellent job. In
Young
his move.
team.
And he got out of some tough situations. The Nansemond River game was extremely tough for them to come back from. And they really weren't putting the points in the last few games that they normally do. And it caught them this time against a good Green Run team. So, yes, we could talk about people getting out coached and whatever. As you get deep in this type of the season, state tournament, you're going to see I hope you see some good coaching. That's why they're here.
Hey, Melvin saw what I saw as I was on the plane getting ready to fly over. They saw you walking in the door, standing room only.
Yeah, I got there late, and instead of trying to fire up and find a seat, I was okay right where I was at. I could see the action. You snooze, you lose. You get there late. Nobody saved me a seat. I'm okay with that. I can stand. And I had a seat. Behind the benches, right behind the scores table at the Smith game. So it was no issue there.
Yeah. Well, we're going to take a quick time out because coming up in just a moment, we have the head basketball coach of the reigning Class 6 state champion South Lake Seahawks. You see the bracket. We'll dig into it. A couple of 7-5-7 teams went down, and Northern Virginia had the power on Friday night in the highest classification. That's Class 6. It'll be South Lake's taking on CG Woodson, a rematch of the season opener. And by the way, that Virginia Preps Basketball Classic, do you know, Ed, the last 3 teams of the games you and Jack Lowe broadcasted on CoVA Sports TV, Verona beating Catholic, South Lakes beating Maury, coming from a halftime deficit down, and Green Run at the time handing Oscar Smith its first loss. All 3 teams that won, all going for championships in the highest classifications. Wouldn't you know that? Pretty ironic, isn't it? Class 6 with South Lakes, Green Run in Class 5, and Verona in Class 4. Now, of course, they all have tricky matchups because Woodson's mighty good. So too is Albemarle, really well coached as well with 600-plus wins, and Greg Maynard. And Atlee, who we had on last week, Raleigh Axel's got a really good team. So we'll dig into all the championship games, but we'll take a time out and come back with Mike Desmond right here on CoVA Sports TV after we hear a quick word from some of the sponsors that make it possible for us to stream with all of you each and every week on CoVA Sports TV. Back in a bit.
Did you know that the minimum limits in Virginia are $30,000? $30,000 is a lot of money on an individual basis, but if you're involved in a personal injury matter, that's not enough. Here at Williams Deloitte, we're happy to provide a consultation on the amount of coverage you have in your vehicle. It can be confusing. Not many people understand it. You know you need to have it, but do you have enough? Give us a call today at 757-547-5555 so we can help you prepare in the case of an automobile accident or any other personal injury matter that you or your family may find yourself in.
For any athlete, making it to the top sometimes comes with a few steps back. That's why there's CHKD Sports Medicine. Advanced diagnostics, treatment, and rehabilitation for sports injuries, just for young athletes like yours.
What's up at DQ? Oh, just the best deal ever. The $7 bacon cheeseburger meal deal. Bacon cheeseburger, fries, drink, and a sundae. No time to be modest. It's all full size for just $7. Right now at DQ. Happy tastes good.
Well, it's everybody's favorite time of year again. Time to prepare to make your annual donation to that infernal revenue service. And if you're like me, you need help. Help to keep that donation as small as possible. So get off your W-2 and call John Maynard at John's Tax Service. 455-6763.
As a banker at Town Bank, we believe that people bank with people, not with banks. You're looking for an actual personal relationship, and that's what you get at our bank. You get that person that gets to know you, gets to know your business, is there for you. I think that is what motivates us, what drives us. And the idea that we are trying to serve others and enrich lives, I think is very true.
What makes a life a good one? Is it our adventures? Or the friends we find along the way? Is it the challenges we conquer together? Maybe it's the people's lives we touch every single day. So, what makes a life a good one? You'll have to figure that one out for yourself.
After more than 50 years of innovation, AstroTurf still leads the way. The inventor of artificial turf does it all, right here in the USA. We engineer, test, manufacture, and install the world's most innovative fibers and turf technologies. with over 30,000 tracks and fields worldwide. AstroTurf, powered by Sport Group.
And now back to Matthew Hatfield and the evil basketball coach. Blast you, Ed Young!
And we welcome you back to 757 Saturday Sports Talk. I am Matt Hatfield. I am joined by the Eagle basketball coach, Ed Young. And also we have with us the reigning state champion coach of the South Lake Seahawks Class 6, Mike Desmond. His team a winner on Friday night over the Lansdowne Eagles 56-50 as he's going back to the title game. Coach, good morning. Congratulations. Thanks for joining us. And we hope you're feeling better because from all reports, it sounds like you were on your deathbed on Monday or Tuesday, and somehow, some way you've gotten alive here to join us on the program. So thank you for spending some time with us.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be on the show. It's great to get back down to VCU. And yes, it was not over exaggerated. I wasn't in the best shape. I know I caught some grief from some people about, suck it up and go be tough. But I think the tougher decision was not to be around my kids, not to get someone who actually has to play the game sick. And, shout out to Damon Johnson, who once again did just an excellent job coaching for me. I had the towel around my face and I'm telling, Damon, hey, let's do this. And then using his voice to echo my thoughts. He does a great job coaching, but Tuesday night, there were a couple times where I stood up to cuss out Merrick or Mackay and almost fell over and I had to grab Damon. So he was not just a coaching support, but an actual physical support. So I didn't fall and hit the ground.
Yeah. I want to get into some of those key guys like, Merrick Reelstone, who's one of Ed's favorites, got a chance to call your game in our Virginia Preps Classic against Maury. Of course, you got the Michigan State recruit in Jordan Scott and many others on your team. But we have to begin, Coach, with you came on our show, or at least some comments to our show, I think last summer about you needed to have Ed Young crowd surf if you came down and played in the Classic and won. Now, you came down and won. Ed didn't get crowd surfed by your fans. So we'll put it out there now. If you're able to beat C.G. Woodson next Saturday, can your diehard South Lakes fans crowd surf him? We would love to get that on film. That would be so awesome to have.
I think if somehow we figure out how to beat Woodson, anything's possible. So my kids in the crowd could probably figure out how to get Ed up in the crowd surfing.
I like it. There we go.
See, Mike, first of all, Mike, congrats. And last on the win, getting back into the championship game. I just want you to understand the way you felt the last few days is how I have to feel every time I'm with this nut job, whether it's on here or we got to do a game together. I've got to keep telling people to understand how he is. Don't get on him. Don't bash him. And I've had people say, bless you because you'll have a spot in heaven because you've been in hell dealing with him.
That's so mean.
In life, everybody has to bear a cross, and he happens to be the one I have to bear. So I'm okay with it, but I want you to know how you felt is what I go through with this dude.
I believe it.
As far see the crowd, this guy would have a bet where I'd have to stand on I-95 in the middle of rush hour traffic and see if he cannot be hit. He comes up with some of the dumbest things that I have to do and never him.
Crowd served. The people would love it. It'd be awesome. It'd be great. We want good content. That's good
But
content.
you have to crowd serve dudes like Dick Vitale, lightweight guys. I'm not when I wrestled, I was heavyweight. So if I go up and somebody gets hurt, who's going to pay that insurance claim? It ain't going to be me.
Okay.
And this nut job here, when it comes to money, yeah, he gone. He got nothing.
You too.
Well, while we're having some levity, let's dig into your win last night, beating Lansdowne 56-50. And I want to go back actually before that. You guys, I watched a couple of games on NFHS. You lost to Westfield, and you actually had the comment to us after you beat Maury in our Classic that, you felt Westfield was, the best team in your district. There was a lot of people that were feeling that way. They were coming, really good team. Kevin Harris does an outstanding job, won a couple state titles at Centerville, and he's got a lot of pieces coming back for next season. And they beat you a couple times. But I felt like the second time that game was right there for you. What changed as you went from the end of regionals or the end of district tournament to regionals, and now the playoff journey to try to go get a second championship began, because it felt like your team picked up its intensity and focus level and took it to a new notch.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin's group is great, and they are young, and they have so much individual talent, and they were hungry for us. We are a team that, a lot of those kids grew up playing AAU with Jordan, so they know each other. The families know each other. They just had this hunger that we just didn't match. We just didn't match the intensity. They wanted that game more, and maybe the loss was good for us and the win was bad for them. It kind of changed us mentally after that game about recognizing consistency, which we try to preach to this group, especially this group, all year. But the big difference in the regional finals is Jordan was fantastic. He doesn't score 30 points every night, and people think he should, but he affects the game every single night. And he came out scoring first, and I think that took the pressure off the rest of our guys. Jordan goes 14-0 on them. We get a good lead. They're young, and now they got to figure out how to come back from that when they're looking at a monster like Jordan and he's playing like a monster. So that game, Westfield made a great comeback in the second half. Isaiah Brown started knocking down threes, but we were always able to have just one play at the right time to kind of reestablish a lead, no matter how big or small it was. And then in the second half, we just controlled things, and we were great on the glass that night, and they had hurt us on the glass the 3 previous games.
Talking with Mike Desmond, head basketball coach of the reigning Class 6 state champion South Lake Seahawks. His team going back to the title game again. They're 26-4 on the season. You see it on the bracket, taking on number 1 seed CG Woodson, who's 25-4, coming up on Saturday, March the 15th, a week from today, at VCU in Richmond, after Woodson took down Oscar Smith 58-46, and the Seahawks bounced Lansdowne, a really good team, 56-50 in the semifinals. It's 757 Saturday Sports Talk, streaming all over the web, CoVA Sports TV and beyond. Ed.
Hey, Mike, I want to kind of go way back. You win the state title last year, and you're coaching a great one in Jordan Scott, a kid that, all American status, Division I commit, Michigan State. I got to ask you for the people that are listening, how is it to coach a kid with that type of notoriety, and then you've got to play him into the rest of your squad? And I've seen your squad play. You've got some other really good kids. The tall,
Ralston,
yeah, tall fella, man. I loved him down here, and when you were playing Maury, he really caught my attention. But how is it when you coach somebody like Jordan, and then you got to incorporate him into your team stuff, what Mike Desmond needs to be done, but at the same time allow him to be who he is with the notoriety that he has? Kind of give us that dynamic.
This is going to be such a boring answer. Jordan makes it easy. Jordan is a team first guy. So despite all the accolades and things that people have thrust on him or things that he's earned, Jordan's never asked me, nor his family, hey, I need to do this. I want to do this. He's an old school player, no ego in it. Yes, sir, no, sir, eye contact, and just gets the job done. It's not hard to coach him. It's been harder to coach other guys with way less talent, way less notoriety, because they want to be more than what they just need to be. Jordan just plays the game. It's been the most easy superstar I think anyone could have hoped to coach, because you could tell Jordan, hey, tonight, don't shoot, don't rebound, just stand in the corner and tie your shoes. And he'll go, well, if that's going to help us win, I'm going to do that. So it's been simple to coach him. He's made it simple to coach him. And because he's a team first guy, he doesn't just hold himself like, oh, I'm Jordan Scott, I'm better than everyone. He makes the right pass. He makes the right basketball decision. He's good with, letting other guys shine, and he doesn't force anything. So it's been simple, man. There's no easiest kid to coach. Doesn't ask for anything, just plays.
Yeah, I know a lot of times people will say when you're coaching somebody that good, how is it when you incorporate the rest of the team? And I had thought when I saw you play, there is none of that, like he stands out and there's confrontation with other players or whatever. I didn't see any of that either. And what little I know of you and your background, I just kind of figured if this kid is playing right now, he's following what Mike Desmond needs to be done without a whole lot having to be said, because as you made it, I love that terminology. He's an old school type player. Coach whatever needs to be done. His parents were great players too, because sometimes, as we know as coaches, that can be an issue where they think they know more than what we do. And many a times I've had some players with those type of parents, and I would say, look, right now I'm coaching him. Okay, when he's home and when he was little and you were coaching him, that's fine. But let me coach him now and not try to project what you guys did on him as to what and where he should be going, because obviously he's a different style player than like when his dad played in that, and his mom was a tremendous player too. As we go along right now on this, you won the state title. You come into this season with that target on your back. Explain that dynamic in terms of how did you feel coming into the season as to what it was like being the state champion, knowing that you probably would like to repeat. Anything that geared your mind in a certain way with that dynamic?
No, so my internet's kind of bad, so it was kind of choppy. I think you said, what was kind of the mindset after last year for this year, just to
coming into this year, right? As a defending state champion, where a lot of people still thought you're good enough, you can repeat it again, and sometimes that extra pressure, especially on the kids, can be detrimental to that goal. How did you handle that throughout the season?
We squashed that real fast, right? We lost 11 guys, and we made it very clear to this group, not named Jordan Scott. None of y'all really played last year. Toshi Elston had great moments the last maybe 2 to 3 weeks of the season. Merrick didn't play in a bunch of close, important games last year. So we made it very clear to this group, you are not defending anything. You inherited these things. And for you to have your own legacy, your own identity, you can't hang around and say, oh, we're defending this, we're defending that, because this group's not. This group has had to earn their own way, proving many people wrong, including myself. I didn't think we had a shot in hell of repeating, let alone, we're here. And that shocks me tremendously. Getting here with this group is almost as satisfying as winning it all with the group that we knew last year had the ability to do it. So there was never any pressure or talk about defending this title or that title, because this group hadn't won those titles. It wasn't theirs to defend.
It's a fair way of looking at it. And so far, so good, as you guys are sitting at 26-4, getting ready to take on CG Woodson, coming up at the Siegel Center a week from today, March the 15th, in the nightcap of the state tournament. And let's go back to last night and look ahead to your game coming up. You play Lansdowne. I know you have a ton of respect for Dwight Robinson, where his Eagles do. He just have a couple of freshmen. Yeah, Damian Robinson, his son, Rashad Shaw, who's really good. And I'm sure you're sitting there going, my gosh, these guys are freshmen. The rest of the state's got to deal with these guys in the years to come. But take us through sort of your game plan and attacking it, because they're known for defense. And they were right there with you early on, and they made a late comeback to get a little close late. What were some of the key things that you outlined to keep them at bay and not let them get momentum? Certainly being at home and having that crowd behind you helped a good deal, but you also have some guys like Jordan and others that have been in some big moments too.
I think, Sherman Rivers said it when he was on Julian's show last week. Some of the things that Lansdowne does that can cause a lot of people fits. We weren't able to stop it, but we can neutralize it because we have a 6'8" press breaker, and he can bring it up. He can stand in the middle, and he's always open. And because he's a willing passer, he can then turn and throw the ball to the next open guy. Dwight's a legend, man. And those dudes are legit young, and they're going to be back in the situation over and over. Hopefully they all stay. I really hope they all stay together and continue to build on just an excellent season. You know, people always say a team arrives early. They may arrive 2 years early, right? But they're 7-5-7 team that played, John Marshall fairly close, played Oscar Smith close, and they're kids, and they're battle tested. They're super skilled. I thought maybe at times last night, our overall experience, helped out in that situation. Playing in a packed house in Ruston is different, and you can play in a lot of packed places and you'll get the same kind of energy. But we had a great crowd, and this is one of those things where you wish that there could be a neutral site for the Final Four. You really do. And the coaches that win these games at home, we're not going to complain that it was at home, but we can't lie and say that it was an advantage. And the coaches that lose these games on the road, they can't use that as an excuse that, it was at their place. But at the same time, it was at the other team's place. So I wish VHSL, there has to be a college or some venue in between here and there that the Final Four games will be played at. There just has to be. And whatever it takes to get that done, we need people in all sports, but I'll just stay in my realm of basketball. We need basketball people making basketball decisions. And to have that environment, to have Woodson and Oscar Smith and Lands on the South Lakes all at one neutral site, I mean, man, that'd been special. That would have been special. And hopefully that's one thing that we can figure out how to do right for basketball. But Dwight's son's an excellent player. Dwight's team, they're young, they're dangerous. And we kind of said, they're so young, it can go one of two ways. They may be too young to realize the moment and play out of their mind great, or they may be too young and they realize the moment and make some mistakes they normally won't.
You hit on a lot of good things there, Coach, because you're bringing up something. We got Doug Craig in the next hour of the show coming on, and he had to go down to the 7-5-7, 4+ hours like Lance had to go up there. Ed and I agree with you totally that whether it's you hosting or someone else hosting, they're going to talk about it in Class 5. Woodside having to play Green Run, though it's the same area code. They had to go across the water. We'd love for it all to be in one spot where we can see all the games. It'd be great for the kids to have that special atmosphere. And you also did something that Ed talked about. I want Ed to jump in here with it when we made our picks last week. And I'll admit, I got wrong. I thought Smith would get Woodson by a smidge, thought Woodson could win just because of that home court edge, and it could. They were known for their third quarters. It picked you guys over Lancetown and had you guys over Smith in the final. But, Ed, you talked about it. The big thing you thought was the length of Jordan and Merrick at 6'7", 6'8", as ability to be playmakers, score or distribute, could affect Lancetown in a close game. But these four teams, just like a lot of the divisions, outside of John Marshall, was the king of Class 2, but Class 6, Class 5, Class 4, a lot of these four teams, you're so evenly matched, and it'd be so great for the fans in the sport to have it in one venue. And hope with this coaches association that Chad over at Spotswood, Chad Edwards, is forming with a lot of you coaches involved, veteran coaches like yourself and Ed, who's been coaching before. Others will help get the sport to grow and have some different changes that will help not just the kids, but the game in general.
Well, Mike, you kind of hit on a nerve. There's been a lot of talk.
I do that.
Social media, people complaining left and right. And I try to stay out of it unless I get asked. But I had to jump in on a couple of things on Facebook because people are so all over the place. You still got a ton of people who say, why the hell can't we go back to single A, double A, triple A? And my comment is that's never going to happen. Me personally, I don't want it to happen if it's not going to happen with football. Now, I've already been told it will never happen with football. Then, okay, then why are the other sports going to change? 6 champions is not watered down. I'll go to 5. I'll go to 4. Okay, I don't have a problem with that.
4 would be a good number. 4 would be a good number. Yeah.
Yeah, but here, if I'm the czar of basketball in the state of Virginia, here's what I think. People talk about home court advantage. You guys win your district. That should mean something. Okay, first round region game, your site, as long as your gym is big enough. And we throw that big enough in there because there are some places people can't get into because it's jam-packed. So I don't mind first round being a coach myself. I want every damn round, including state championship on my own floor. We all do. Mike does too. But that first round I can see. Now we get semifinals of the regionals. I want a college court. And here my thinking becomes, Somebody out of this region is going to the state tournament, which happens to be at VCU Siegel Center, College Court, different background, blah, blah, blah. So let's start getting them used to it. Regional semis, regional championship, and the entire state tournament should be on a college court, because when they say, well, South Lakes was number one, they should be rewarded. Well, wonder if South Lakes is playing number one Lansdowne. Okay, they're both number ones. So let's put it on a college court. Now, I already know what the VHSL is going to say. Availability, money, usually money, then availability. Yeah. Okay, this is stuff you work out in the summer. Mm-hmm. When basketball's over and at the end of next week, I know you got spring sports, and yeah, they're important. But now you start working out a year ahead what are the venues in the state of Virginia we can use.
Well, a quick pause, Ed. We had super sites. Remember, we've done games before. You know this, Mike. We should be having games at George Mason, Old Dominion, Hampton, other college facilities. They all can't be at VCU for one specific day.
Right. You can play. I know years ago when I won a state title in the late 80s, we had the boys at JMU and I think the girls at UVA. Mm-hmm. And
it was 87, right? It was 86. 87.
Yeah, 87. Right? I don't care if it stretches it out too long. It's the state tournament. What else are you going to spend time? Even if you got to play, and I'm not big on this, if you have to play afternoon games, get the kids out of school, close the school down for a day. Everybody
they have to if they're traveling up to Oscar Smith or South Lakes. They have to get out anyway because you can't make that trip in 2 minutes.
Right.
Yeah, Doug left at 11 a.m. yesterday.
Yeah. And I imagine Dwight probably had to leave at about 12 or 1 for you guys. And I remember years ago, this is even worse, Coach, when you had Dwight's region 6A, they had to play Franklin County on a Wednesday night, 4 hours away. I mean, just some of the rhyme and reason for things. And your region's different, but every region's got different. There's not a lot of universal set of things. That's also bothers me. You might be in class 6, someone's in class 5, and one region does it one way or less games. The other region has this way. So it can be viewed as a competitive advantage or disadvantage for whoever it is, regardless of what area code they're from.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think it's important to make the state tournament stand out. Let those kids have an experience of state tournament. Playing on your home court in a state tournament, that to me is no state experience at all. It's just another home game. Mm-hmm. So get them to I know it costs money and all that too, but again, state tournament we're talking about. This is what you go all out for. And other states do it. So Virginia, I say to you, go see what these other states are doing, mix and match, whatever it can be. But I just think when you get to a certain point, it should be neutral floor, period. And it should be the big courts because that's where you're going to play. To me, it's common sense. And for people to say, well, we can't do that, it costs money. Okay, but, you're charging $10, $11, $12 at the door for these games from regionals on. Okay,
14.
You got to money somewhere.
$14.
Right. Now, of course, me and this dude here, we sneak in the back door. He puts on a janitor costume and says, I'm here to clean the floor, and they let him in. But no, it really needs to be highlighted because it needs to be a state tournament experience, not a one-game situation. You guys are going to the state again, and, that'll be a state experience. But previous for this year, it isn't. That's just me.
Coach, before we let you run, because I know your time is precious, and I hope you didn't freeze up there on your computer. But I got one more for me.
No, you're not wrong. I mean, it's a clear advantage, but also it's a disadvantage for all because
Coach, did we lose you? I think I think you froze up there for a second. We'll see if we can reconnect with Mike Desmond.
Am I back?
Yeah, we got you. Yeah, we lost you for a second. You were talking about. Go ahead and continue on with your point there. You
were having some
connectivity issues. Yeah, go ahead. You were making a comment. Go ahead.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we got you. Your internet was lagging. We got you now. Go ahead. You were commenting about the whole logistics of things. If you can, go ahead.
Can Mike hear us?
I don't know. It might be a few seconds behind. We're having some technical issues, but we'll iron them out here in a second. hopefully we'll get him back reconnected to finish up here with us on 757 Saturday Sports Talk. And when we do, we'll get him back on here with us in a moment. But talking about the state tournament, I do want to finish up with Mike on his game with Woodson coming up, because we have some other guests coming on, including Doug Craig. We've also got the interviews with Kenny Harris of Green Run, Kass Jackson, and David Trey Miller, as well as Greg Maynard of Albemarle. All right, we got Coach Desmond back with us. I think we do. Coach, you're good with us. Sorry about that. We're having some technical issues, but you were making a point there, following up what we were talking about in terms of the whole state tournament logistics and things before we dig in on your game with Woodson and let you run here. Go ahead.
No, I don't remember what I was saying. We can just move on to Woodson.
Oh, you're good. Well, you played them. Okay, let's do that then. You played them in the season opener, a game that you won. It was so long ago. I don't know that it has any bearing or meaning whatsoever. Back on December the 3rd, 73-51. They've obviously changed. So have you guys. So help us talking heads out with, we do the keys to victory on the NFHS network. What are a couple of keys, 2 or 3 of them, for South Lakes to get it done and win back-to-back and beat a very, very good Woodson squad?
I mean, yikes. Jordan's going to have to be great. Not just good, he's going to have to be great. Merrick and Toshi have to be great. CJ and Alec have to be great. Brady and Mackay and whomever else we throw in there has to be great. Woodson's just a complete team, man. And in a different, they remind me of my group last year, but in a little bit of a different way. But they're just a complete team. So we'd have to shoot the ball well. We'd have to rebound the ball well, and we would have to play defense like we haven't all year against that group that Doug has.
So, Ed, if I understand him right, it sounds like he's got to score more points than the other team, and he'll come out on top.
Mike's not going to divulge anything right now. He knows exactly how he wants to play Woodson. He's already played him before. Doug's sitting in the background somewhere with his notepad and whatever, I think. But, I watched him last night, and he did a great job of taking Smith out of what they normally like to do. Smith could not get real comfortable scoring, and Smith, athletic as can be. They got all 5 guys who can rip it and run. That's a big thing they do. Their press is dynamite. It did not, as I watched Doug last night, when it got a little hairy for him, doggone guy didn't take a timeout at all. He just was calm about it, made a couple of substitutions. Doug didn't go deep into his bench, which could hurt him against your squad. But his kids just knew how to react. And Chilton, the point guard, who I love to death, he picked that second foul up in the second quarter, had to come out, obviously. And I said, this is where Smith smells blood in the water. It's going to be trouble. And they were able to withstand what Smith threw at them and just held out. The kids they did what I know they can do. They don't panic. They don't give you the ball at will. You're going to have to earn it. And they make you uneasy in what you want to do. And again, when we talk to Doug coming up again, I'm going to say, when I watch Mike's team play against Maury, you got a lot of weapons out there. You could put your finger in this hole and stop that leak, but there's another one back here and you only have so many fingers. So what are you going to do? It's going to be a great matchup. I hope I have the pleasure of announcing it, because I'll have something to say about both coaches, let alone the kids on the floor. And I'm just glad I'm not going against either one of you, because, me, when I'm coaching, I'm trying to get W's. I don't want none of those L's. And this year's been great for me because I ain't lost a game yet. I'm like 37-0. It's a great year for me.
No, you've been to more than 37 games, by the way. He's been to like twice as many as me, Mike, because I have to watch a lot of them because I'm doing broadcasting for ODU. He's been to like 3 games a night.
I've learned. I've picked up a lot this year. I've watched coaches while the play is going on. I've kept my eye on coaches only. I've watched bench decorum. I've watched why a timeout, why not a timeout. Because I said to myself last night, hey, Doug, you want me to call a timeout for you? What are you doing? But he knew his squad. He knew what he was doing. So, and I'm learning. I'm re-educating. So if I get that opportunity to come back in there, I want to be a little bit better than what I've been in the past too.
I mean, Doug's group is seasoned, and that's why he doesn't have to take some of those timeouts, because he's got such a seasoned group. And, Kalen, yeah, he's a young superstar. But that backcourt, right? Theo Burke, it's no joke. The kid had like 25 in the regional finals. And then Noah was the player of the year in that region. And, the Taylor kid inside, he was an outside guy, experience. And then the kid, Carrello, I butchered 13's name, the lefty. But that dude is unsung hero for him, and people don't talk about him and Taylor enough because the big three get all the headlines. Yeah. But 13, man, the lefty, he can knock down shots, he can put the ball on the deck, and if you're not on point, that dude can put up a sneaky 20 on you. And again, you have this great backcourt of Kalen and Theo where, you know, they're star players. And again, Noah's a huge X factor because when Noah's great. You know, and the kid Morgan off the bench, right? Long, athletic, shot blocker, scorer. But when you have a team, and I watched Doug's game already twice now. When it's getting chaotic and turnovers are happening, a lesser team without that kind of mental fortitude that Woodson has, they were going to crumble. Mm-hmm. But they didn't. They didn't react. They turn it over, next play. They turn it over, next play, let's go get our own turnover. And you just have this seasoned group. You have a seasoned coach in Doug who's won a championship, has always had good teams, plays in a tough schedule. So, yeah, I mean, Doug was cool and calm because he knew he had the best players on the floor, the best team. And they've seen this. They've been there. They've done that. They've taken L's. They've taken wins. Again, they're a complete team. They're dangerous for anybody.
Well, Coach, it should be a fun one next Saturday night. We're looking forward to it at the Siegel Center in Richmond. 26-4 South Lakes, 25-4 CG Woodson. Winner takes the state championship for 2024-2025 high school hoops in Class 6 Virginia High School League. Always a pleasure, my friend. We look forward to seeing you next week. And go get those guys ready there at South Lakes, the rowdy crowd base, so we can possibly crowd surf Ed. I might tell Doug to crowd surf if they win. Too. I just want to see Ed get crowd surf, regardless of who wins. That's all I care.
Look, we'll get them to crowd surf and tell Doug I said go get a haircut, man. Tell him I said get a haircut.
Yeah, no, I got to get on him too because when I saw him, first time I saw him in the season, he had a good, well-kept beard, whatever. Now it's James Harden. I said, I wanted to say to him, you know, you and I could be tag team partners for the WWE,
right?
Because he looks like one of those pro wrestlers. So, you know, you got the good shave, clean look. We know who you are. Doug is in hiding with the beard and everything and whatever else, and he's all over the place. But yeah, WWE needs to call on him. I already got his nickname too, the Beast. The Beast. He would be perfect. You know.
That reminds me for our audience to let you go. You have Jordan Scott, whose nickname is Fuzzy. Are you allowed to divulge what his nickname is Fuzzy for the audience out there?
Sure. His going into his freshman year. You know, he comes to one of the workouts and there's this skinny little dude standing over on the side stretching and his hair's all over the place. I think he has some fuzz on him. And I don't know, I mean, it looked like a little fuzzball. So I saw calling him Fuzzy. Ironically, when Christy found out, it brought her to tears because that was her nickname from her father years ago.
Really?
And it was never discussed. It just happened, and yeah, Fuzzy, it just stuck, man. Fuzzy's Fuzzy.
There you go. So we'll see Fuzzy and the Seahawks take on Doug and the Cavaliers.
The Beast.
The Beast and the Cavaliers. There you go. Fuzzy versus the Beast. It'll be fun next Saturday night. Always a pleasure, Mike. Good luck to you and your guys, and we'll talk next week.
Thanks, guys.
See you up there, Mike. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Head basketball coach Mike Desmond with us here on 757 Saturday Sports Talk on CoVA Sports TV. We got Doug Craig around the corner, but when we come back, you're going to hear from some of those Green Run Stallions, victorious over the Woodside Wolverines. Kenneth Harris, Kass Jackson, and David Trey Miller all caught up with Jack Lowe. It's coming your way right here on 757 Saturday Sports Talk on CoVA Sports TV. We want to know what's the best state championship game next week. We'll show it on the screen here as we go to break, Ed. You got South Lakes and CG Woodson. You got Green Run and Albemarle. You got Verina and Atlee. You got Hopewell and Spotswood. You have the Men of Marshall, John Marshall. Got a neat stat on them coming up. And the Graham G-Men, Ed called that one. And the Franklin Broncos. How about Robbie Cutchins, who came on last week, just like Robbie Axel? They did not get jinxed. Both Axel and his Raiders won. Cutchins and his Broncos won. They're taking on the Georgia with Bulldogs. Plus, you have girls' title games that we'll dive into on with you all, too. Coming up, we'll show you those 6 as well as we move along here on CoVA Sports TV and 757 Saturday Sports Talk. But let's hear a quick word from some of those that make it possible for us to stream with you right here. Stay tuned.
What makes a life a good one? Is it our adventures? Or the friends we find along the way? Is it the challenges we conquer together. Maybe it's the people's lives we touch every single day. So, what makes a life a good one? You'll have to figure that one out for yourself.
What is more? Is it more reps, more strength, more stamina? We say it's all of that, but it's greater than just what's in the mirror. It's about improving your mental and physical health. More is a feeling of achievement, fulfillment, confidence. It's looking better, feeling better, being better, and it's our mission to get you there. Because here, you are more. One Life Fitness.
Portco is your local nonprofit organization dedicated to economic empowerment through employment for people with disabilities. We focus on abilities, not limitations, providing on-the-job vocational support. Find your pathway to employment. Contact us or learn more at portco.org.
Well, it's everybody's favorite time of year again. Time to prepare to make your annual donation to that infernal revenue service. And if you're like me, you need help. Help to keep that donation as small as possible. So get off your W-2 and call John Maynard at John's Tax Service. 455-6763.
At Rush Soccer, our love of the game and the community we create doesn't stop when we leave the pitch or when the season ends. We are more than an individual player, team, club, or league. We are a truly global community of athletes, parents, coaches, professionals, and fans. We believe that youth sports and the pathway to a lifelong love of soccer have the power to form deep, meaningful connections that will fundamentally shape our players and those in our community. We believe that what we feel is the key to what we can achieve. Feel the pride. Feel the confidence. Feel the legacy. Feel the connection. Feel the trust. Feel the acceptance. Feel the purpose. Feel the difference. Feel the rush.
At Atomic Wings, we prioritize real chicken with fresh, all-natural, never-frozen ingredients, all packed with serious flavor. Order from over 15 awesome flavors at atomicwings.com.
We're back here on 757 Saturday Sports Talk on CoVA Sports TV. We teased it earlier. Our man Jack Lowe was able to catch up with David Trey Miller of the Green Run Stallions, Kass Jackson, and Coach Kenneth Harris. Let's first hear from Big Trey, who was battling with Silas Barksdale last night in the state semifinals, right here on 757 Saturday Sports Talk on CoVA Sports TV.
All right, talking with David Trey Miller. Green Run upsets Woodside in the state semifinals. Just what does this mean to you and your team and the seniors on the team?
I mean, it means a lot because obviously coming to high school, one of my main goals, a personal goal, was to win the state championship, and I know that was every senior goal on this team, every person on this team, get to win the state championship and at least get to one. So now that we're there, we got a chance.
Yeah, and I got a name for you, Silas Barksdale. You had to go toe-to-toe with him. He's huge throughout this entire game. Just what's it like being in a matchup with him, standing toe-to-toe, and being able to win that matchup?
Obviously, he's a great player. You see as he going to VCU next year. So I got to give a lot of respect to him, work hard. But, I mean, I just got to take that matchup personal. If they say we the matchup, then I got to go out there and try to win that matchup and do my best against them.
Yeah, so I got to ask you, you're a student in high school. So you had to sit in school today, at least I think. What's it like sitting in, waiting for tonight all day long on a Friday, and then you finally get here?
It was hard. Like, my heart was pounding, my adrenaline pumping the whole day. Obviously, everybody talking to me. I'm trying to zone it out and just lock in. And so it was kind of hard just sitting through school all day.
Let's kind of ask your coach this. Talk about the culture of this team. You guys seem to love each other. You guys seem to play with each other, play for each other. Talk about just the culture of this team and what it means.
The culture of this team, play together. Obviously, we've took tough losses together. Like last year when Elijah broke his leg. That hurt a lot. That hurt all of us, and we didn't have him for that matchup last year. So we knew we had to welcome him back this year, open arms. And
and Woodside's been there back-to-back. You guys finally get over the hump after losing them last year and in the regular season. Just they're such a respected dynasty in VHSL right now. What's it mean to knock a team like that off?
It means a lot because obviously great team, but we think we can go toe-to-toe with any team in the state, and that's what we proved tonight. So.
Now you got to wait a whole week, and then you got a single center up in Richmond at VCU. Just what's practice going to be like the next few days, prepping, just making sure you are absolutely dialed in for next week?
I feel like practice going to be very mentally intense. Like, we got to focus on what the other team does, what can we do, how to scheme against them, and how to execute.
So that was David Trey Miller of the Green Run Stallions, a winner 39-34 here on CoVA Sports TV and 757 Saturday Sports Talk. And very, very impressive performance. We'll hear from Cash Jackson and Coach Kenneth Harris in just a little bit later on in the program. Mark Fout chiming in as we had Mike Desmond of South Lakes on earlier. Crowd surfing, Coach Young, when, where? That's must-see action. Can we tee that up next week at the Single Center? I love hearing from our broadcast friends like Mark and Demetrius Means, and of course Andy Hayes, Tim Blank, Helene Shane, our family away from our family that we see every year at the Siegel Center. Got to shout out Warren Kemp and all the good people, Mike Whittington who does the stats, and of course the VHSL people like Mike McCall and company treat us so well. We appreciate all that. But yeah, Mark, we got to get Ed to crowd surf. That'd be awesome. I don't care if it's South Lakes or Woodson wins. We got to have Ed the last game of the night, the winning fan base. And by the way, Woodson's got a great cavalry, which I'm sure Doug will talk about. They can crowd surf you just as easily as the South Lakes fans. It would be just thrilling action after the team wins the championship. We go to the trophy presentation, and then we end the night with you getting crowd surfed. It would be beautiful. Just be beautiful.
Yeah, I don't really see it happening. And yeah, Lynn, I think that's who I am. Really, if we turn this around, you would be the perfect one. Number one, you're way lighter than I am, so you'd be perfect to crowd surf. And we need to give you that type of glory, not me. I'll stay in the background. So I'm going to work on that. I'm going to talk to some people. I'm going to make a couple calls today, and we're going to try to make that happen.
We're going to try to make that happen. Before we get to Doug Craig, who's waiting here in a moment to hear us, hopefully his technical issues are good with us. Your thoughts on what David Big Trey Miller had to say, because that was a tricky matchup for Kenny Harris and the Stallions to go up with that big man going to VCU. What'd you think? Because you caught the second half, and it looked like Big Trey stayed out of foul trouble, and his numbers weren't glossy. Green Run wins the game. And by the way, fewest points the Stallions have given up in a game. Check that. Fewest points Woodside has scored in a game since January 27th of 2012 when they lost to Kickitan 50-31. So a tremendous defensive job by Trey, Cash, Coach Harris, and that group.
Yeah, I didn't get to see the whole game, and I like to see everything, even in pregame. They just did a great job. They did a great job. Second great job on defense against the Woodside team. I thought Nancy Rivers' game plan against them earlier was tremendous against them too. It's just that Nansman couldn't make shots. Yeah. Really couldn't make shots, and a couple key turnovers at the wrong time. And again, it's not Woodside totally flopped. It's just Green Run, and David Trey Miller did a great job on the big fella. And I thought going into this, if anybody can play Barksdale pretty much straight up, it would be him, because Trey Miller, first of all, he's about 6'5", 6'6". He got a little bit of height himself, but he got a little muscle to him too, and he bangs a little bit. His point totals and that were down because I'm going to guess that he was really concentrating a lot on the defensive end because Green Run has enough scores. In fact, last night I got a little nervous because they took some outside shots when I wouldn't say there's an outside shot was needed, especially against a team like Woodside trying to come back from a deficit. So Kenny's got to clean that up a little bit too, but the game plan was really into it, and Woodside did miss some key shots where they needed them to get, and then Green Run hit the shots where they need them. That was the key, don't it? Because you can have a tremendous game plan against a team as great as Woodside, but if you don't drop some points on your own, they're going to outscore you. But they're not. When you hold Woodside under 40 points, you have an excellent chance to win, because as you just said, since 2012, that's the lowest amount of points. That's amazing. But the other thing I liked about with Trey Miller, when they asked him, Jack asked a great question. You got to sit in class all day, and you got a big game coming up. How do you feel? That's why I always said on big game days, take the kids out of the classroom. Yeah. I know you can't do that, but it is nerve-wracking. I know sometimes players get nervous. Some act a little foolish. Some don't want to be talked to, because they start getting into that game mindset early.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I love games on non-school days. Saturday's a great time to play. They don't have to go through none of that. And I know academics is first. Nobody has to tell me that. You got to concentrate on your classwork. I understand that. But when you get into regional games, state games, where your next loss is your last game, and the chance to win a state title, it goes through those kids. It pumps through them like crazy, because it could be the only chance they'll ever have in life to win something that big. So I can understand that.
Look who joins us now. He's the head basketball coach of the C.G. Woodson Cavaliers, victorious on Friday night in Chesapeake. They made that 4+ hour trip, and they're going to be taking on the South Lake Seahawks. We were joined by Mike Desmond earlier. We're now joined by the head man of C.G. Woodson, Doug Craig, victorious on Friday night. Coach, great to see you. Congrats on the win. You're playing for a state championship, and Ed Young did not give you bad juju watching your game on Friday night, which is always the better thing, because he can sometimes be a little bad luck. Yeah, you got us, Coach? Can you hear us? I don't know if Coach can hear us. He sees us, but we're having some technical issues. He's not able to hear us for some reason. We see Doug on the screen, but for some reason he's not able to hear us. So we're going to effort that, see if he can reconnect potentially. I don't know if he's on his computer or his phone. We were just bringing him on, so he's having some technical issues hearing us on the program. So we will try to get that fixed and ironed out in just a moment. So, but heck of a win for him and his squad. And they'll be taking on South Lakes in the championship game coming up. Let's see if we can get Doug to hear us now. We'll try to mute him and see if it – Coach, you got us at all? Can you hear us, Coach? Can't hear us at all, so I'm not sure what's going on here. We're going to see if we can get him on in just a little bit, having some technical issues. But, Ed, while we wait for that, Green Run and Albemarle will be taking each other on coming up on Thursday in the state championship. That's going to be in Class 5 coming up on Thursday. That's an interesting matchup. Two teams that we didn't expect to see each other in the final.
No, I think, I'm one that said back in August, Woodside would probably be winning the third. Great chance to win third. Riverside had a heck of a year, coming on strong, undefeated most of the year. You had said that would possibly be their opponent if things work out. Of course, you got to play the whole season out anyways. But we knew Green Run was going to be good. We both picked them to win the region they're in and would be there. I've seen them enough to say that, yes, coming in, I picked Woodside to beat Green Run, but I said to myself, too, Green Run has an excellent chance to beat them if they play a certain way, which they did. And Albemarle, again, Greg Maynard been there a long time, 600 wins. It's a long time. And they're another one of those teams that just does not beat themselves. They don't make a lot of dumb mistakes themselves. So you're going to have to beat them, not hope that they lose. You're going to have to beat them. So now that becomes the matchup, whereas we're thinking Woodside, Riverside would be the big matchup, the sexy matchup, so to speak. That's not it. But you have two teams that are hungry for a state championship. I've always said, when you get to the state tournament, whoever's been there before has the advantage because you've been there before. You already know what all the prep is, everything going there. The bright lights don't mess you up. The big court doesn't mess you up. All the notoriety you're going to get, people coming at you. You already know all that. You can handle that. So these will be two teams that did not have that last year. And, led by two really good coaches, which does help. That will help in their preparation to get there. And they're both on that even playing field because they haven't been there. So it'll be a good one to see. Among a lot of good games and good matchups, this will be another one where, it should be, I'm going to right off the bat without even looking at 4 or 5 point game throughout.
Yeah, it should be. Well, while we try to reconnect with Doug Craig, who's going to attempt to get on by his phone as opposed to his computer, maybe Ed Young gave him the virus. I think he gave him the computer virus. That's the only thing I can figure out. We're going to hear from Kass Jackson.
As you say, Doug has good juju with me. There's no issue, no problems there. We correspond, no problem. You sent him the link. You poisoned the link. It messed up his computer. He's got a virus.
Didn't happen. Didn't do that.
I thought maybe he lost a microphone in his beard somewhere and he couldn't get it out. I don't know.
Well, we're going to see. Actually, I think we might have him now as he's looks like he's appearing to come on the show. Coach, you got us loud and clear now?
All right. Is that working? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we hear you. Can you hear us?
Like a silly person, I tried to log in through my computer. I should have just went to my phone.
No, listen, we know what the problem is. Ed Young, you were around him too much. He gave you a computer virus. That's all it was. He tried to give you bad luck last night. It had to have been Ed with the computer, but we could see you. You just couldn't hear us. But we're glad you were able to get the phone working, and we got you. With the beard, which, by the way, you're now the Beast, according to Mike Desmond. So you take on Jordan Scott, nicknamed Fuzzy. It's going to be the Beast versus Fuzzy. And regardless of what happens, whether your Cavalry can do it or his South Lakes fans can do it, we want to see the championship trophy given to you and your Cavs or Coach Desmond and the Seahawks. And then as we part the night and go off the air, we want to have the fan base crowd surf Ed at the Siegel Center. That would just be riveting content for our viewing audience on the NFHS network.
Yeah, I think that would be great. It's funny. I need a haircut and I want to get my beard trimmed. And we had a little parent get together last week, and I was like, yeah, I got to get over to the barber tomorrow and get my haircut. And one of the parents was like, absolutely not. We're on a run. You can't cut anything. I was like, okay.
That's right. You can't shave while it's working. Don't mess it up.
Listen, we all know rationally none of that stuff matters, but it's amazing how all of a sudden things like how long your beard and hair becomes really important to people when you're winning games.
Mike, I told Mike, Doug, that I gave you the nickname Beast, but Matt said Mike did. I don't want you to get mad at Mike. I'm giving Mike the nickname. I forgot to tell him Mr. Clean because he got everything shaved. So now we have a WWE matchup, the Beast, all right, which who you are. You got to play your role, know your role, like The Rock says, know your role. And then Mr. Clean, who back in the day were two wrestlers with that name.
Yeah.
Mr. Clean and the Beast. So that's going to be the matchup because, me, I like to have the coaching matchup as part of the big story. I always try to look for something in the coaches. So that's going to be the Beast going against Mr. Clean in this one to see what happens. Now, Doug, if anybody knows what I have to go through, what I go through with this nut job. He's begging the world to crowd surf me. Okay. Nobody talks about crowd surfing him. So I'm going to get your Cavalier Country.
Look, our audience wants it. They all want it. Mark and the audience want it. You're alone, Ed. They want it.
No. I'm too heavy. Hatfield's a lot lighter. They can move him all over the place, mess his hair up because he always talks about hair being kept, and we'll go from there. Or whatever coach wins the title, their crowd would serve Doug Craig up over their head or Mike. I would pay to see that myself. So, but this nut job here always comes up. Like I said, he would like to see a bet with me standing on the middle of I-95 in the middle of rush hour. Would he get hit or not? Just give him 30 seconds. He would go off on that kind of stuff.
Well, two things to that. Number one, I don't need any reason to get mad at Mike Desmond. He makes me mad on a regular basis. But Mike and I are very good friends. And two, I think, listen, they only crowd surf guys that win over 500 games. They don't bother with any of us menial, short-term coaches. They need guys that have some longevity in the profession. And I think Coach Young would be perfect for that.
No, see, these rookie coaches like this, they think they can get over on me. You're playing for a damn state championship. State championship trumps 500 or whatever wins all the time. So don't come with that one on there because I have ways. I know some special people in special places. Some guys that wear ties and suits. We get some things done. We got to crowd serve either you or this nut job over here. But more importantly, we got to get into what I thought was a tremendous matchup last night. Oscar Smith, your squad, Woodson. And that's why I was elected to take that game. I wanted to see that coaching matchup because I thought you were two distinct styles. And Doug, I didn't get a chance to speak to you before or after because I got there about 3 minutes ago in warm-ups. I didn't want to bother you. I saw you in gray mode. I saw the beast of burden with that beard. I said, I ain't messing with this dude. And I sat behind the scores table, right behind your guys' benches, because I want to hear the coaches. I want to see.
I was watching it from the airport. I could see Ed on the stream. And then, by the way, he's going to tell you, he then sped. He broke 15 different state speeding laws to go see Green Run and Woodson at Ocean Lakes because this guy takes in twice as many games as I do. And I thought I watched the most games in the state.
I haven't had a chance to watch that game yet. I'd like to go back. I'm gonna go back and watch it on the FHS.
Yeah, that's a good one to see it.
Did they really hold? Did Green Run really hold the ball and run long possessions on them? Wow.
No, I saw most of the second half. Obviously, getting there after going through the swamplands of Virginia. I don't think it was so much holding the ball. I think the game plan was really good defensively on what they do with Barksdale. And then again, it's not so much pressure in Barksdale. You got to pressure that ball and you play Woodside because they got scorers out there too, but you got to eliminate his touches because once he gets the ball inside at 6'8", 6'9", he has great body control and he can score shots. But again, coming back to your game.
Well, let's stop there, Ed, because we have some comments, and I'll let you chime in with some questions for Doug. And we got some guests coming up later with Greg Maynard of Albemarle, as well as Robbie Cutchins of Franklin here on the show. But John Hubman wants to know, Coach, did your strategy change when Chilton picked up his third foul? And then Ed can jump in with you here. Go ahead.
That's a question I want to know.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, he's probably our most talented offensive player. And, anytime you lose, in a game like this, when you get guys in foul trouble, you have to kind of adjust a little bit. Now, we're fortunate enough to have another point guard in Theo Burke that can really handle the ball and handle pressure. And even our bigger guys like Will Taylor and Limbago can handle the ball and make decisions. So we were kind of able to kind of weather those minutes when Kalen was off the floor. I felt like we still were able to get into our offense and get decent shots at the basket. But yeah, I mean, obviously you're looking to kind of manufacture some offense when you're talented guys off the floor. But we kind of brought in Colin Morgan for him, and Colin's a really good defense player. He's very long, so our team looks a little different because we're a lot bigger when one of the guards goes off the floor. So yeah, it was kind of like mix and match a little bit, try to maybe slow the game down a little bit because Kalen is the one guy we have that can kind of like go get his own shot against just about anybody. And so we wanted to make sure we kind of, make sure the ball was in the right guy's hands, get good shots. One of the other things we thought about prior to the game was we knew that they were going to really pressure our guards and really get after us. And we knew that Will Taylor would be kind of like a natural pressure release all game long because he was going to have their big guy guarding them. And Will's such a good ball handler, passer, and decision maker that we were able to kind of use him to help facilitate our offense.
Yeah, certainly some unsung heroes with Taylor and Corallo to go with your headliners in Chilton, Noah Limbago, Theo Burke, guys that are district, all-region, all-state level caliber players, player of the year in your district and region there. So it's a good mix of guys, which Coach Desmond was very high on, Ed.
Well, and coming into and watching what happened into that game, Doug, I thought early Smith was able to get in the lane. And I know some things that we had talked about in the past, what they're good at is they come at you. I mean, they're great at rip and run. They don't throw outlet passes. They don't need to because guys can handle. And they'll coming at you and they'll, when you're getting turned around to play defense, they're laying it up at the rim. Yeah. And they were coming at you pretty good. Now, your interior defense was causing some missed shots. But they did enough to hang around. I thought when Chilton got that second foul, which I thought was kind of crazy on that foul, if I'm not mistaken, it was the one slap from behind or something where I didn't think the contact meant anything, not that, but it was called, so you got to deal with it. And I thought, this will be a case where Smith, with your backup point guard, can really apply the pressure. But I did notice you started having your bigs kind of bring it over to half court line. And Smith never really adjusted to go say, well, wait a minute, we're going to go pressure him. And you kind of alluded to that fact. I thought the key was changing some defenses where in the second half, Smith could not, because they're notorious for third quarter shenanigans where they can really do some damage. And I thought you did your best work in that third quarter. What was your, even though I think you were up a couple at halftime, what was your halftime message to the kids?
We felt like at halftime, we felt like, we have two keys on offense and two keys on defense for every game on the board. And we felt like at halftime, we were doing one of them really well. One of them we weren't doing very well. And two, we were just okay. And we were +3 at halftime. And we said that to the kids, like, listen, we're not even like really executing our game plan to a top level right now. And we're still +3. We felt like we could kind of, we felt like some of the shots they were making, they're going to get in the lane. They're athletic. I mean, Hunter and the two guards are quick, and one's a really good player. They're going to get in the lane. They're going to make some tough shots. But we felt like, they were getting in the lane, but they were making tough shots. Like, these were contested shots. They didn't get a lot of easy ones. And, we wanted to keep them out of transition as much as possible because they're really good in transition. And I felt like, we wanted to make them execute against our 5-man defense, which we feel like is pretty good. One of the things that we've done this year is we've been kind of able to, I think we're a really good man-to-man defensive team. We're pretty good. We give up about 45, 46 points per game. We've pretty much been able to man-to-man everybody for weeks. But we've had zone defenses in all year long, and they're kind of holding them in our pocket for when we needed them. And we brought out some zone last night. We played a little bit. We played more zone last night than we probably played all year. And it wasn't more than 5 minutes of the game, but I think it caught them a little off guard. I don't think they had prepared for us to show much zone because we hadn't shown much zone in weeks. And we played a little 3-2 last night in the second quarter. In the third quarter, we went back to the 3-2. We did a little half court trap, which we were able to get a turnover on. So we kind of showed some things. We kind of had some stuff in our back pocket for them. We knew that, I feel like if you can kind of cut off their transition and offensively make them play against 5-5, I wouldn't describe Oscar Smith as like the most skilled team we've played against all year, but they're certainly athletic and the rebounding. I thought the thing we didn't do very well in the first half, we did not box out and we were not physical enough on the glass. That was an area we wanted to improve upon in the second half. So we felt like there were some things that we could make it difficult on them. And I thought like in the third quarter, I think we held them to 7 points in the third quarter. I felt like we switched defenses a couple times. We made a few adjustments in how we guarded them at halftime. I think it kind of threw them off a little bit. And I think in fairness to them, their point guard, number 3, I'm terrible with names, but
Cam Walters. Cam Walters,
yeah,
yep.
He's a really good player. I think he was he did not play against Colonial Forge Tuesday night. It didn't look like he was moving at 100% last night. And that's hard when your point guard is hurt. It's tough. And I think that you have to be truthful on that. Like, I don't know if he was at 100%. I think he gutted out, gave him what he could, but he clearly was not himself. That's a crappy thing in the state tournament to happen, to have an injury and a guy be limited. But unfortunately, that's part of it. And you just got to find a way. And I think we were able to kind of make them a little uncomfortable in that third quarter.
Yeah, had the toe injury that he suffered in last week's region championship win over Lansdowne, which we watched. We're talking with Doug Craig, head basketball coach of the CG Woodson Cavaliers. They're moving on to the state championship, trying to win like they did in 2017 when Ed and I were fortunate enough with Andy Hayes to broadcast on the NFHS network their overtime thriller and win over CD Hilton in a year where they won all their overtime games. Woodson now at 25-4 gets ready to take on South Lakes at 26-4 in the state finals at VCU. I know you and Ed could go for an hour plus reminiscing about all your Pennsylvania grow-up days and also about how this state tournament can be fixed and changed and bettered, which we'll do it at a different episode, a different time, because we're pressed for time today. But I want to know, before Ed jumps back in here with you with a couple questions on the game coming up with South Lakes, we got to broadcast your game here on CoVA Sports TV when you beat Kings Fork in the 7-5-7. How much did you reference that and use that as a learning experience and a tool for what you had on Friday night against Oscar Smith? You traveled to a foreign territory. You're playing a team that's athletic. Certainly it had to help you as you prepare for that game on Friday.
Yeah, I think there's some similarities between the two teams, Oscar Smith and Oscar Smith and Kings Fork. I think both are very athletic teams. Both are physical teams. I think both teams are, and I mean this in the most complimentary way, they're a little bit of bullies. They'd like to get up in you and pressure you and make you uncomfortable. So I think they're playing that game certainly helped. You take a long bus ride and you have to play that day and get organized and all that stuff that goes into it. Coach Young would say, yeah, that's a big part of any time you got to travel like that. So I think we were comfortable. I think we felt like, we did talk about that how the teams I felt were kind of similar type of teams, that we had played that style of basketball before. And I think one of the things that we felt like with Kings Fork that we did a good job was we didn't wait to react. We kind of hit them first, and we wanted to kind of do the same thing yesterday. We wanted to be first on everything. We knew that the crowd would be hostile. We knew that, we weren't, you never know what kind of whistle you're going to get on guys that have never seen you play before. And so we wanted to make sure that we were engaged from the start. And I think that's important in these kind of games is to not be reactionary, is to impose your style on the other team. I think that was a big part of it last night. We were able to kind of get the tempo of the game where we wanted it. And we're very comfortable playing that way. But yeah, there's definitely, we definitely talked about it. Obviously Oscar Smith and Kings Fork, they're not exactly the same team, but there are some similarities there, I think.
Ed?
No, I think Dougie hit right on it. They are very similar. When those two play each other, it's kind of a war because they do bully and they do try to intimidate you. I thought last night in watching, there was a couple times your kids actually got held, jerseys pulled, and your crowd noticed it because I happened to sit, I think, near your crowd, but the referees did, and it's kind of like, we let them play, and then all of a sudden you see that, like I said, that wraparound foul that your point guard had, really, trying to steal it from behind. It didn't affect Oscar Smith at all. Nobody fell down, and then the whistle blows, and that's where you say to yourself, you're not seeing us play much, have you? Or you're allowed to grab jerseys here because up there we can't really. It would drive you crazy. No question, it would drive you crazy. And Matt's right. We could spend a heck of a lot of time on this, but we do have a little bit of time. I want you to, if you would, because your team really, you got some outstanding kids. Kind of, and now we talked about a few of them in game situation, but go ahead and mention some of these kids in terms of the year they're in and their names and some things they bring to the table for you guys. That way, some of our listeners, when they watch you all play next week, they'll have an idea of your kids.
Yeah, Theo Burke, our one of our 2 point guards. We basically play 2 point guards. Theo, number one, is committed to play at York College in Pennsylvania next year. He's a senior, great kid, over a 4.0 GPA. Really good student, wonderful kid. His dad is our head soccer coach. He is a coach's kid. He's a gym rat, loves to play. I think he's one of the tougher guys that I've ever coached. I think, there's a lot of kids who talk about like they want the ball at the end of games and want to take the last shot. Theo's actually one of those kids who does. He's not afraid of the moment. And he's just kind of a tough, hard-nosed kid. He looks like he's 5-0, 100-0, but tough as a piece of leather. He's a tough kid. Chilton, everybody knows about. He's probably our most talented guy. He's got an offer from West Virginia as a sophomore. Very gifted scorer, great athlete, quick, strong, can really almost, I was telling this to Julian Brown on his podcast. Like, I think he's one of the guys in the tournament. I don't know how many there are. I mean, I know South Lakes has one too, but like, he's one of those kids that even if the other team has great defenders and a great defense, he can sometimes, if he's on his game, can still get 25 against really good competition. He's one of those kind of guys. He's only going to get better. He works really hard. Limbago, number 5, was the player of the year in our league, in our region. Kind of I always say he's kind of a Swiss Army knife kind of player. He rebounds, he plays defense. He had 6 assists last night, averages double figures. Even though he's 6'2", 6'3", he's a strong kid. He can handle the ball. And I think emotionally, he's kind of like our heartbeat. He's a very emotional player. I think he doesn't allow our guys to really ever take anything for granted because he plays so hard. Will Taylor's our starting center, big redheaded kid, 6'5", 6'6". He's going to play at Case Western Reserve in Ohio. He is one of the more cerebral players I've seen in quite some time. He's another kid with over a 4.0 GPA. He's got over a 1,500 on the SATs. Case Western Reserve is one of the best schools in the country. He's going to be playing there next year. They have a very good Division III program as well, so he'll be playing there. I think he's played really, really well in the playoffs. Kind of a different kind of big because he doesn't like dominate with his back to the basket, but he can handle the ball. He can pass. He can shoot it a little bit. He just seems like he's always in the right spot. Our 5th starter is Ryan Corallo. He's a junior, left-handed guard, can really shoot it. Did not have a great night shooting it last night, but I thought he was active and kind of kept them honest. He's a little scrappier, I think, and bigger than people realize. He's a little bigger, thicker kid than a lot of people. Very talented. He's been starting for us all year. We're going to have to lean on him a lot next year. But he kind of fits in with this group. He's a good cutter. He moves without the ball well. And then off the bench, we're basically playing 2 guys right now. Colin Morgan, very athletic, longer player, great shot blocker, rebounder, scores around the basket, left-handed, and he's a little unorthodox, but he's a really, really good athlete. He's getting some college recruiting interest as well. He's got 3 or 4 schools talking to him about playing next year. And then David Gantimer, who was kind of quiet last night, wasn't a great night matchup-wise for him, but small guy, about 5'8", 5'9". He can just flat out shoot the ball. I mean, he can really shoot. So he's another guy that stretches out the floor for us when he's on the floor because teams, especially the teams up here, know they can't leave him open. So it's almost like when he's on the floor, even if he's standing at 30 feet, they got to guard him. And allow some of our other guys to play with a little more space. So we have some other guys who were rotational guys early in the year, but right now we're basically playing those 7.
A few more minutes here with the Occoquan Region 6C champion coach Doug Craig of the CG Woodson Cavaliers, victorious on Friday night in Chesapeake over the Oscar Smith Tigers in the state semifinals. You see that score there, 58-46, after bouncing Westfield in the quarterfinals, 71-58. Got down 7 against a good team early and then put it on them in the second half. It is 757 Saturday Sports Talk here on CoVA Sports TV, as Woodson will be taking on South Lakes in the state championship game in Class 6 at VCU on March the 15th at 6:30. South Lakes trying to go for its second straight state title. Woodson trying to get its first since 2017. And coach, a rematch for you and your guys from the regular season opener, Ed, when they lost to South Lake 73-51, but both teams very different than 3 months ago, Coach Young.
Yeah, Doug, that was going to get into that next. You played in the first game of the year, and you are different now. I know you don't want to divulge game plan. Mike didn't want to do it either. I think he's already watched 7 films. He said, it's Saturday morning for me. I'm watching cartoons after this, but I'm sure you'll be doing some film stuff too. But give us some little intel on South Lakes.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I haven't watched any film on them yet today. Well, you had a long bus ride back. We didn't get back till like 12:30 last night. So Mike he played at home, so he was probably in his office watching the film after the game was over. But no, South Lake's great team, great program, obviously defending state champions. But they've been in the state tournament now, I think 3 or 4 years in a row. Mike does an excellent job. His staff, they're very well prepared, very professional staff. They will have a good game plan. They will execute their stuff. Personnel wise, obviously everybody knows Jordan Scott. I mean, I personally think he's the best public school player in the state, regardless of class. I think he's outstanding. Good size at 6'7", 6'8". Can really shoot it, can score it. Can get you for 30 if you're not careful. But at the same time, too, if you just run double teams at him all night, he's unselfish. I think that's the thing about him that impresses me the most, is he is so unselfish. If you double him, he'll give the ball to some of those other guys who maybe can't get you for 30, but can get you for 15 because you don't guard him, because you're focusing so much attention on him. And I think he's not only have they made him be unselfish, he's a willing passer. And I think that makes him very dangerous to play against, because he's the most talented guy on the floor. He's the biggest guy on the floor. He's smart and he's unselfish. I mean, that's a pretty good combination in any book. But they have some other guys too that are really good players that, Jordan gets so much of the headlines, and rightly so. But Merrick Railstone is another kid like 6'6" who can handle the ball and pass and shoot. Very talented guy. I think he'll be a Division I player. They have other guys. Toshi, I forget what Toshi's last name is, but he's kind of like their glue guy. He just rebounds and moves without the basketball and plays defense. I think one of the things about them when we played them the first time was how big they are. They're just a big team. Like they just got a lot of like positional size at every spot on the floor. They're physical. They get after you. They don't make a lot of errors. I think that's a similarity between both teams. I don't think either team makes a lot of self-inflicted mistakes. So you're going to have to be sound in what you do when you play against them, because they're going to play within themselves and they're going to execute what they do. And they got kids who have been in this big game before. Some of these guys were on the floor last year down at VCU when they beat Patriots. So they're going to have a significant big game experience advantage. And it's just an outstanding team. I think it's a great final. I think, honestly, I felt like the Final Four, I mean, all 4 teams were capable of winning the whole thing. And all very good teams, good coaches. I think this year in 6A, I think there were 5 coaches that had coached a state championship team.
Yes.
And then you had, Sherm over at Patriot, who's been in the final twice. Coach Griffin down at Oscar Smith, and they've been in the state semifinals several years now. I think they've been in the state tournament now several years. Mm-hmm. So you had a lot of coaches with a lot of like state tournament game experience, and I think that makes it for an interesting tournament. I don't know if you get that every year, like we had it this year. So I think that was one thing that was kind of neat about this state tournament, is that you had, I think, most of the best teams were in it. There weren't a lot of like huge upsets in the region. Mm-hmm. So you had like the top, basically, district champions almost across the board in the state tournament. And that's kind of cool. And then, Dwight down at Lansdowne is one state title, and they were in the game last night and played well. I mean, I know he's got a young team, but there's some guys who know what they're doing. You really got to be on your stuff when you coach against some of these guys, because they are all excellent.
You nailed the storylines right there, Doug, with state championship coaches like yourself, Mike Desmond, Dwight Robinson, Kevin Harris at Westfield, Sherman Rivers and LeVar Griffin have been knocking on the door, and certainly Westfield and Lansdowne, the way they're built, they're going to be in these championship runs for years to come. But I also like the fact you and Coach Desmond, you're class guys, you're veteran coaches, you've won it before, and you know each other's teams inside and out. You give a better breakdown of the other team's personnel than your own sometimes, it feels like. But you've also learned from Coach Young and the mini sandbagging way of playing it coy. Y'all have followed one of the old KG vets on how to do this thing. And, we're just happy to be there. You guys have learned and done it the right way at approaching it. So, Ed, you've taught the next generation well and how you do this. Don't shake your head. We just got to get Ed Krauser. That's all I care about.
Coach Young, all these guys who aren't in coaching don't understand that. They think it's sandbagging and stuff like that. But it's the truth. Like, you never like, you can't prepare for a run like this. I knew we had a good team, but I didn't expect to be in the state final. Like, you're just trying to get your kids to play well at the right time and get them to play together. And if you have talent, sometimes the winning takes care of itself. I think everybody from the outside, it's just how we are in this country. Like, with a lot of coach worship, and it's like, at the end of the day, the kids make every single shot, every play. You're just trying as a coach to put them in a position to be successful. And to be successful, they have to make the plays themselves. And Coach Desmond does a great job. He's a great staff. But I will say this for the state final. I'll say something a little controversial. I have the better hair than Mike Desmond.
There you go.
Bald. He has no hair. I at least still have. It's thinning, but I still have some. And Mike doesn't have any. So I win that matchup. The game is irrelevant. I have the better hair. That's what's really important.
Listen, you're like me, Doug. I have better hair than Young, and Ed doesn't like it. That's why he gets so jealous and wants to make those shots at me. Yeah.
I don't have any problem with him and his Grecian 57 or how many products he puts on his hair. That's fine. I already said the matchup, the beard against the bald, the beast against Mr. Clean is going to be probably going to outdo the kids in the game. It shouldn't be that way, but it's just the way it is. I want to back up a little bit. When Matt and I started talking about states and whatever, Doug, we gave Woodside Region 5 title again. John Marshall, Class 2, it's everybody who's going to face Marshall. Marshall's going to get automatic. We thought Northside with the great backcourt, Billy Pope at the helm, they're pretty much everybody else is going for second. When we said 6, what was crazy was here comes South Lakes with Jordan Scott back, Mike Desmond, and Coach. We did not give them automatically state title. We said, hold on. There's too many good teams in 6. First of all, Lansdowne and Smith, we already know what they got. We see them every day. Tremendous athletes, coaches that have been there before. So we were kind of like, 1 week we're picking this team. 1 week we're picking that team. Then the third week we said, whoa, we forgot about this team. That's how good 6 was. But my point to that is guys like you and Mike, Dwight, guys that really know what the hell they're doing. Guys that I don't want to coach against because I got to work my ass off to beat them. That's what I say about you guys. There are guys that I'll go against in my career. I'm not really worried if we screw up. No, I don't mean to be disrespectful to coaches because I admire most all coaches. But the idea is there's some guys you got to work against and some guys you don't. Number one, you have to have talent. To get where you're at right now, you got to have talent. You have talent. Number 2, strength of schedule. How you manipulate your non-district games, where they at on the schedule, and how you get through your tough games in the schedule to get you ready. People say, you got to play extremely tough schedule to get to states. I don't necessarily agree with that because if you play an extremely tough schedule and you get your butt beat all the time, you never get to states because we don't have large teams in. So you got to be careful how you do that. And then number 3, which is kind of hidden, you got to have a guy calling the shots who knows what the hell he's doing. And somebody like yourself, like I said, Mike and whatever, and I'm not just trying to love on guys because we got you in front of us. It's guys that really know what they're doing. They coach their kids hard, but yet they defend their kids hard too. Because some coaches scream and yell. I've seen timeouts this year. I don't even know what the timeout was for. It was just screaming and yelling, and nothing got done. And I'm thinking, okay, I got to take note of that because I don't want to be one of those type. And a lot of times, sometimes I take a timeout and let the kids run the timeout. Hey, you're playing the damn game. You got yourself down 10. How y'all going to get out of it? Okay, you tell me. You stand up and let me sit down and you tell me. But you got to sometimes release that. Sometimes coaches don't do it. They try to be in control. Like they don't let their assistant coaches say much. I watched your interaction last night, your assistant coaches. You have great interaction with assistant coaches. Your assistant coaches have say in what they're doing. A lot of teams don't have that. So, it's going to be a great matchup on Thursday because of you guys. You and Mike are very similar. But obviously it's going to be the coaches. I mean, the players are going to win or lose the game. It's not going to be the coaches. And this is the thing I'll say all week on the broadcast. I hate to see the end of the game because you're going to have one team hugging and laughing and feeling great and the other team down and crying. There's no loser in the state tournament game. Think about it. Y'all got there. There's a million other schools sitting at home or in the stands watching. So, yes, it's tough. But I always like to say to our kids, let's take this as a learning experience. You veterans coming back. Let's remember this 365 from now. So if we get back here, and it's hard to get back there, we can understand that. So, again, that's what I'm looking at. But again, the bottom line, the beast, Trey, Mr. Clean, Mike Desmond, already is the storyline. I'm going to pitch that to all the newspapers. I'm going to say it on the NFHS network. So don't mess with the beard. Don't start cutting your hair now. Okay. I know your wife probably go crazy with you, when you're trying to get all lovey-dovey and all that hair is all over her. And she's like, get away, get away. Just tell her one more week. Yeah. And then after that, you do whatever you want.
And don't forget Fuzzy Jordan Scott, too. Don't forget Fuzzy Jordan Scott. Before we get the final comments from you, Coach Craig, and Ed here, John DeCandido wants to know Ed's top 5 high school coaches in the state of Virginia. I'm going to hold his feet to the fire later on in the show because I imagine Doug Craig could be on that list. Dwight Robinson of Lansdowne could be on that list. We got a guest coming up in Greg Maynard of Albemarle who could be on that list. It's going to be a tough list to make, but I'll hold Ed's feet to the fire at the end of the show. We got a lot to go over with Greg Maynard coming up. Robbie Cutchins of Franklin coming up. Sound clips, interviews that Jack Lowe did with both Kass Jackson and Kenneth Harris of Green Run coming up. But we're going to hold Ed's feet to the fire, which I love to do because then his toes get burned, Doug.
Listen, funny story about last night. Talk about wives and all this stuff. So I get back on the bus last night. A big win. We were going to the state final. Everybody's happy. My wife, I sit down and my wife turns to me and goes, "You need to go apologize to Coach Carr, your assistant coach. You yelled at him a lot tonight, and it's not very nice of you to yell at him." I said, "I already apologized." She's like, "No, you need to go apologize to him right now." So I had to walk back on the bus, apologize to my assistant coach, because I guess I yelled at him because we substituted the wrong guy in, or we didn't substitute correctly one time. And so I had to apologize to my assistant coaches, lest anybody think that any head coach has any control of anything in their life. If you're married, you have no control. And my wife orders me around on even during basketball season about basketball things. That she, by the way, she knows nothing about basketball. She never played. She comes to like 5 games a year. She likes to knit. She knits up in the stands. But yes, I had to go apologize to my assistant coach because I had to make my wife happy last night. Isn't that amazing?
Hey, if you don't keep the wife happy, you're not coaching. So I get all that too. And they'll come up. I mean, I'm not married. I'm divorced. I got rid of mine a long time ago, so I didn't have to go through those issues.
Or did she get rid of you? That's another time for another show. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's another show. But they'll come up with the craziest of things. Like you said, you got a big win on the road, hostile crowd. You're in the state tournament. Honey, what do you think? Yeah, you're yelling at your assistant coaches. You're not going to be doing that mess because they're pretty soon going to be yelling at me at the house. So you need to go out of nowhere. It comes out of nowhere. And you did the right thing. You just simply get up, go do what you got to do, come back, sit down, keep your mouth shut, and wait for the next situation that they'll come up with, because it's the one thing about wives. You can never figure them out because they can't figure themselves out. I can say that she's not listening.
Well, listen, as much of a beast as I am with this beard, I'm absolutely terrified of my wife. So I always got to keep her happy. And the funny part was my assistant coach said, "It's not the first time you yelled at me. It won't be the last time, and it's fine."
Hey, real quick, because I know we got to go. I've done that before
for 2 hours. Go ahead. Hurry up, Ben.
I look at my assistant coach. I said, "Anybody here breathing? What are we doing? Why the heck didn't we go to 2-1-2 zone?" I had an assistant coach one time sitting back like this. He said, and he used some colorful language, "We told you 3 minutes ago and you said no. So go ahead and lose the damn game." That's the kind of interaction you need to have with your assistant coaches, because they'll come right back with the same thing instead of being quiet or being upset. And that's the interaction you need.
Yeah. Listen, I am so blessed to have the staff I have. They're so much better coaches than I am, and they make me better and challenge me every day. They make me think about stuff I wouldn't. Any head coach, I think, and I always tell this to young head coaches when they're first starting out, is like, empower your assistant coaches to coach. Let them coach. They're not just there to hold a clipboard. Let them coach. Nobody has the market cornered on ideas and the game. Sometimes you get ideas from assistants that you wouldn't have thought of yourself, and you should want people to challenge you and to think about things that you wouldn't normally think about. And that's how you get better. I'm blessed. Zach Carr, Rich Avio's a longtime head coach, was a head coach at Yorktown for 20 years. Josh Peters. I have one of my former players, Andre Pacheco, on staff this year. All these guys are helping me get this team. It's not just a Doug Craig show. These guys do so much work behind the scenes and help our kids. And I wanted to make sure I acknowledge them publicly because they do such a great job to help our kids. And they're the real reason that this group has been coming together. I think our staff does a great job.
That's awesome. And as always, Coach, don't forget about Mrs. Craig. A happy wife means a happy life. And we'll be looking forward to next Saturday, Coach. South Lake, CG Woodson, the nightcap of the Class 6 finals there at VCU on March the 15th. All the best to you and your squad, and we'll see you next weekend, my friend.
All right, Matthew, Coach Young, thank you guys so much for having me on, and I look forward to seeing you guys next week.
Absolutely,
see you up there.
Coach. That is Doug Craig of the CG Woodson Cavaliers moving on to the state championship game next week at VCU. Moving on to the state championship in Class 5, it's going to be the Green Run Stallions and the Albemarle Patriots. And we got a living legend joining us next on the show. Eddie's got 615 wins in his decorated coaching career, and he's going for that first ever state championship. We're talking about Greg Maynard, part of the Maynard brothers. We'll talk about that too when we come back here on CoVA Sports TV. Like, share, and subscribe wherever you're watching, be it on VirginiaPreps.com, all our social media accounts through Facebook, IG, Twitter. We're on Apple, Spotify too. It's all coming your way right here on 757 Saturday Sports Talk. And we'll be back after this quick word from those that make it possible right here. Stay tuned on CoVA Sports TV.
For any athlete, making it to the top sometimes comes with a few steps back. That's why parents count on CHKD Sports Medicine, advanced diagnostics, treatment, and rehabilitation for sports injuries, just for young athletes like yours. With convenient locations across Hampton Roads and a whole team of experts here to keep your favorite player at the top of their game. CHKD Sports Medicine. Learn more at chkd.org or call the CHKD Sports Injury Hotline.
CoVA Painting. We don't just paint, we transform spaces. Visit covapainting.com or call 757-550-7357 and mention the Sportsplex for 10% off of projects over $1,000.
What's up at DQ? Oh, just the best deal ever! The $7 bacon cheeseburger meal deal. Bacon cheeseburger for a limited time, plus fries, drink, and a sundae. Yeah, this is not the time to be modest. It's all full size for just $7. And there's bacon on that burger. The $7 bacon cheeseburger meal deal. Now, for a limited time on the $7 meal deal lineup. Only at DQ. Happy tastes good.
What does happiness mean to you?
Being in the ocean with you, watching you catch super fun waves.
In Virginia Beach, happiness is breaking barriers and savoring the sunshine.
I couldn't pick a better place or a better person to be with. This is what makes me happy.
Happiness is going all out.
And taking it all in.
Here, happiness is whatever you make it. Find yours in Virginia Beach.
I grew up here. I know this town. I know the people here. More important, they know me. As a banker at Town Bank, we become part of the communities we serve. The people who bank with us, our members, know us. When you bank with Town Bank, you'll know your banker. You'll know you can reach us, and you'll know we're here for you.
Hampton Roads has a long-running high school and college sports tradition. It's time to give them the spotlight they deserve. This is 757 Sports Talk. Here are Matt Hatfield and Coach Ed Young.
And we welcome you back to 757 Saturday Sports Talk on CoVA Sports TV. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're now joined by a special guest, Ed. He is the head basketball coach of the Region 5C champion Albemarle Patriots. They were victorious on Friday night against the Riverside Rams, stopping their 20-game winning streak after beating a really good LC Bird team. We know how good Troy Mans has done with the Skyhawks, and he's had a couple of heartbreaking losses in double overtime to them. Last year on a buzzer beater, we called one at Hampton University years back when he had Austin Katstra, who played at UVA, and Jay Kahn, who played at Hampton Sydney. We know his dad, Nick, well, who's been on our radio show before, a horse racing expert too. And we say hello and congrats to Greg Maynard, whose team goes for a state championship coming up on Thursday, March 13th at VCU against Green Run. Coach, congratulations, and we'll say full out of the gate here, disclaimer, both Ed and I had Woodside versus Riverside. We were on the wrong sides. It's you and Coach Kenneth Harris going for a state final. Should be a lot of fun coming up on Thursday.
Well, thank you, Matt, and hello, Ed. It's nice to be with you guys, and really excited about the opportunity to play Green Run on Thursday.
Well, 615 wins for you and counting. And Ed's got a bone not to pick with you, but your brother Darren, who coaches at Western Albemarle, because we matched him up against your brother in the Virginia Preps Classic one year over at Churchland High in Portsmouth, and Ed took the L, so he's blaming me for that.
Well, Darren does a great job at Western Albemarle. They're our big rivals, and we're 25-3, and one of those three was to him in overtime. So, he had a great team this year too. They got knocked off by Spotswood, who's also playing in the championship this week.
Ed likes to joke. We have the Mario brothers. I'm sure you're familiar with the video game Mario and Luigi. We got the Maynard brothers, you and your brother Darren, because you put an end not to crime and stuff like that with Bowser and all the people that follow the Mario brothers. You guys put an end to teams trying to knock off good teams, and you guys make these runs year after year. But you're right there with that elusive championship, one win away now.
Yes, thank you. It's we've been to the Final Four, like you mentioned, 4 times. And I think in the last 9 years, and we finally got through last night. I'm proud of what my players did and the opportunity again to play in the state championship game. I got to throw out a bone to my son too. Brett, he coaches William and Rose basketball team. They were in the state playoffs as well. Both he and Darren lost the quarterfinal games, but his team did very well this year too. So not only the brothers, but also have a son that's doing well.
And one more quick before Ed jumps in here. Your other son is on your coaching staff. Is it Drew as well?
That's correct. Drew is my assistant, and he does an awesome job. One of the best I've ever had at breaking down the other team's plays and stuff and teaching them to our players. He's my right-hand man. So I know I heard Doug talking earlier about him yelling at his assistant coach. I can't yell at mine. My wife would really get on me.
Ed?
That's a great one, Greg. Great to have you on, man. I know we haven't talked in an awful long time, and I admire your work from afar. 600 wins. People, when they got on me about getting 500 wins a couple years ago, I just simply said, you got to be old to get wins, and man, you got to have some talent. You got to have some assistant coaches that willing to go through hell for you to get that. So I can't. Somebody said to me about hanging around long enough to get to 600, whatever. I said, no, there will be not another 100 wins in me. I still hope to get back in it. Get a few more. I'm not worried about wins. I'm just worried about working with kids because I miss it greatly. But I got to ask you another question. Don't you have another brother that coached, I think, because when I first got the job at Nansemond River, the girls coach, there was a Maynard was a girls coach.
Yes, I do. Mike, my youngest brother, he moved on to William Monroe too, and that's actually who Brett took over after Mike got out. But Mike's a great baseball coach. His team is at William Monroe's won state championships in baseball, and he did a really good job in basketball while he was coaching there too. But I know he was down at Nansemond River for a while and coached basketball, and I think maybe softball as well.
Yes.
But,
yes.
Really, yeah.
So it's official. It's official. The first family of basketball is the Maynards. There's about 27 of them. They've got offspring doing it, and the key person is Mrs. Maynard, who keeps you in place and makes sure you don't make any wrong calls, any screaming at her sons. So that's a hell of a family to have. The Maynard's the first family of Virginia basketball. And you guys, you've earned it. I mean, your career speaks for itself. I've never given you any of your 600 wins, but I gave Darren, I think one of his, what's he at, 500?
He went over 500 early this year as well. I think it was their first win of the year, took him over 500. He was mad at me last year. We beat him 3 times last season, and he said if I'd have just let him win one game, he'd have got that 500 and wouldn't have had to wait a whole season to get it. But
and it reminds me of the Patinos we were watching the other day. It's funny, Greg, before we went over to the state quarterfinal with Green Run and Maury on Tuesday night, Ed came back from Richmond and he stopped in, had to use my bathroom, and I put on the TV the Rick Pitino doc, which I'm not sure if you watched on Vice Sports. And we were supposed to leave. I think Ed got entrenched into it for 30 minutes watching Rick Pitino, the little episode 2 with his son Richard at New Mexico. He was fascinated by it, which we've got a little bit of that storyline here with you and your family here in high school basketball in VA.
Yes, it's nice to see those coaches that have their sons follow them up and do well. It's I guess it's just in the blood.
Greg, I got to ask it. It's intriguing to me. How did it follow up? You all right into basketball. In your upbringing, does something special happen? Was it streamlined for that, or it just happened? It's amazing because not only you guys all in it, because I remember Mike when I got in the River. Mike and I had a conversation. Mike had a great brain about some basketball. Younger guy, yes, but he had a great brain, and he did tell me that he was better with the baseball and the softball than he was basketball. He just took it because they asked him, but I knew he was a little bit better now. How did this all come about?
Well, our father was an athlete, and he was actually a punter for Marshall University coming out of high school. And then he was always playing fast pitch softball and basketball in rec leagues, and he would take us to the games. And they tell a story about me when he took me to a game one time. I think I was 2 or 3 years old, and it was a basketball game late in the evening or whatever. And I climbed in a locker and fell asleep, and the whole place couldn't find me after the game was over. But so we started out young, and we lived down on the fast pitch softball fields playing baseball and stuff. So. And it's just been in the family a long time. My uncle Maisel was a head coach at Mann High School in West Virginia and was very successful. We would have I was born in Logan, West Virginia, and you probably heard of Willie Akers, the longtime coach at Logan, and he was part of our history too. But we moved away there when I was in 8th grade, so never made it up to, or actually earlier than that, but never made it up to play for him, but. Just a lot of coaching, a lot of sports. We all played basketball, baseball, coming through college. I actually played both at Bridgewater College for a couple years. That was hard, and just wanted to go into coaching, and that's where we all ended up.
And then I got to imagine, as brothers, I have a couple of younger brothers. They didn't get into coaching. In fact, it was crazy. I coached them when they were in middle school, and threw them out of practice. Threw the one brother out of practice almost regularly. My mom got on me like crazy for throwing them out, and she didn't want to hear why. But I got to imagine the Maynard boys had some throwdowns. Am I right or wrong? Or y'all church boys and there was no fights, or we can't speak about it on the air?
No, we had a lot of battles, and there were a few fights. We had a little basketball court in our backyard that we had some concrete on. It wasn't very big. You could barely get a free throw off. You couldn't even shoot 3-pointers. Of course, they didn't have them when I played anyhow. And there was a fence that kept the ball from rolling down the hill, and we about tore that fence down, pushing each other into it when they got too close to it. So, yeah, there was a lot of battles out there.
I can imagine. You can't really put them all on out here, but I guess Mr. and Mrs. Maynard had to whoop some butts here and there to make sure put the boys in place. But you guys have come a long way. That's a hell of a family tradition with so many wins. But I know we got to get into what's coming up. But before we do that, because I'm not familiar with it, I admit I did pick Woodside, and Matt got me interested in Riverside.
You and me both. I mean, two really good teams. Yeah.
And stupid me didn't look at who's coaching, so I messed up on those. But give us some insight on your kids that we're going to come and see this week. People will be able to see. Let's talk about some of your kids.
Sure. I'd be happy to. But before I do that, I want to congratulate Coach Harris and Green Run on their great win against Woodside. They knocked off a team that's been the state champs for 2 straight years and has a big man going to VCU. So we're going to have our hands full. But I've got a very balanced team. My point guard had a great game last night, Isaiah Harris. He was player of the year in the Jefferson district. Sometimes he can just take over games. He's extremely quick, can shoot, can score at all levels. He can shoot it. He makes these free throws. He can take it to the hole. He had 2 big dunks in the game last night. But he's not my only weapon. I've got a wing player, Makai Ragland, who actually leads our team in scoring average, a little over 13 a game. All these guys are right in that 13 average. He's a slasher. He can shoot the threes, real good athlete. And then I have a big man inside, Marjalen Jackson, about 6'5", 6'6", that he can take up a lot of room. He's got a great touch. He was the region player of the year. He played so well in the region. He also averages right around that 13 and close to a double-double. It's almost 9 rebounds a game. Those are my big 3, but I have a couple other guys that really, really help out. Azarion Claxton had 18 points in our quarterfinal win over River Bend earlier this week. And Tristan Smith does a great job defense. He's my second leading rebounder. And we go about 9 deep. We play a lot of players. A lot of the other guys come in and do their job. So we're not limited to just one player. It's hard to scout us and figure out who you have to stop. We have a lot of weapons.
We're chatting with Greg Maynard. He's the veteran head basketball coach of the Albemarle Patriots, who will be taking on the Green Run Stallions coming up on Thursday, March the 13th at 2:30 at VCU. The state tournament begins on Thursday with the girls matchup with Princess Anne going for its 15th state championship as they take on William Fleming. And then the boys matchup in Class 5 features Green Run and Albemarle. The Patriots ending Riverside's 20-game winning streak in the state semis after ousting LC Bird in the state quarterfinals, the team that ended their season a year ago on a buzzer beater in the state semis. It is 757 Saturday Sports Talk here on CoVA Sports TV. And Coach, you hit on a little bit with Coach Young there, some of these key guys for you. And we've seen your teams over the years with Katstra and Hahn, as I mentioned. Last year's team I thought was the one that would get to the championship with Ben Weston and Noah Grievous. And this year's team is clicking. I want to go to a quick game, though, that I watched online. As the region quarterfinals, you're the number 1 seed. James River's the 8 seed, not your typical 8 seed, a very good, dangerous 8 seed. And they're beating you in that ball game late in the fourth quarter. You ended on a 9-0 run, got a huge 3. I think it was it Isaac McLaughlin-Ratty that put you ahead?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
He hit the 3, and Makai Ragland sealed it with a couple of buckets. How big was it to win a game like that where you're about to go out potentially in the first round and it takes some of that pressure off, although you still got to win one more game to punch that state ticket? And what did that game do for you? Because that certainly had to help ease some of the nerves once you got that one out of the way.
Well, we were down 4 points with, I think it was like 3 minutes to go, and things weren't looking good. They were knocking down shots from everywhere. Our defensive intensity wasn't what I would expect in a key game like that. And then we just turned it around. We got after them. We got some steals. Like you say, we hit the big 3. Isaac hit the big 3. And then we got a couple of breakaways. Makai Ragland got a steal and a bucket, and we made our free throws after that. But, they put a scare into us. We were scouting, trying to figure out who we would play in that number 8 seed, and there was about 3 teams, and they were the one that we did not want to play. And it ended up we got matched up with them, and Coach Smith for them does a great job. And we were kind of lucky to get out of that one with a win, and we've played very well since then. I guess that was our closest game until last night since that win.
So, you could argue, what year is this for you at Albemarle, by the way? What year is this officially?
This is my 36th year as the head coach.
36 years.
6 years previous to that, I was assistant for Rich Lyons. Before that, he passed away last summer. So, a good man. Yeah.
Yeah, 36 years. So you may have had some teams that could have been, you thought, at the beginning of the year, better equipped to take that next step. I saw you guys in the offseason at the VA Live, and I knew you'd be good again, but you were still, replacing a couple of pieces like Ben and Noah. What would you say has made this group unique and set them apart as you're now in the championship round for the first time?
Well, we went into that Virginia Live with really only 2 players that have played varsity basketball the year before. And they set us up against Oscar Smith and Lansdowne, and we weren't ready for those 2 good teams.
Not a lot of fun, right? The schedule makers didn't help you out there. Yeah.
Right. But, we held with Lansdowne for a long time, but Oscar Smith put it to us pretty good. But the younger guys, I knew they were very, very talented. We'd had undefeated JV teams the 2 previous years. They just had to develop into varsity players. You can get by with a lot of things in in the lower levels that you can't get by with on varsity basketball. And it's taken a while. It's a process. It's something we have to work on every day. And, they're a very, very athletic, very talented group. And when they play together and when they play hard defensively, good things happen like they've done a lot this year.
Ed?
Well, Greg, obviously you're here and it's Green Run. I'm sure you'll like we've talked with Mike Desmond and Doug Craig about films and get back and see what you have. At this time of the year, it ain't ready for changes. You don't get this far. You don't get in a state title game and say, okay, we got to make changes. You dance with the girl you brought to the prom. So what do you know off the top of your head about what Green Run might present to you? And is there a team you've already played this year that you can say they're somewhat similar to this team?
To be honest with you, I really haven't studied Green Run as much as I would like to. We've been going through a stretch where we play a game, have a day off, play a game, have a day off, and you're just constantly scouting and watching tape. And, you wake up with the red shot eyes and all bloodshot eyes and all of that. And I decided last night, I said, we don't play till Thursday. I'm gonna take a night off. I'm not going to come right home and start watching tape again. So I've got to get into Green Run more, and I'm sure Drew will as well. But we got a little more time this time before, but by Monday's practice, we'll be ready to go. I know they're very athletic. I know they have a big man inside that seems to play really well. I know they're coached really well. Coach Harris, I actually coached against him when he was at GW Danville. That's how long I've been around. That's and great. He'll do a great job. They seem to have some good quickness. And if they held Woodside to 35 points, they must play great defense. So, we're going to have to work on ways to score against those guys, and we'll be prepared. But like you say, we can't change the way our guys play right now. We got to just keep working on that and be prepared for the different styles you see with different teams. And I'm sure Green Run will have a little different style than most teams we play. I can't think of one right now that I can really compare them with. Maybe LC Bird, but LC Bird's not real big inside, but. That's probably the most athletic team that we played so far as Bird.
It brings about another question. And you say, all right, today I'm just going to kind of relax a little bit. We don't play till Thursday. Plus, you're going to put some work on your assistants, which is the way to do it. See, us veteran old guys know it. Doug and Mike, the two guys are watching film like crazy. Now, Doug got in late after his wife got on him for yelling at assistant. He had to do some extra house duties. So he'll watch film. Me, I'm watching cartoons. It's Saturday. I ain't got to worry about filming anybody. But take us through what you will do. More than likely, I don't know if you're going to do anything on tomorrow, Sunday, but going right up to Thursday in terms of getting your squad ready, behind the scenes of the Albemarle coaching staff as to getting your squad ready for state championship game.
Well, Drew and myself both will watch a lot of their games, as many as we can find, and try to break them down. And then we'll plan our game plan, and then we'll set up our practices according to what we need to work on, to execute that game plan. And again, it's kind of a relief to have 3 days to do that, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, as compared to what we've been going through with. Well, we did have 2 days before the Riverside, but all last week we played Monday, Wednesday, and Friday in the regionals, and it's just such a rush to get all that done. And I got to be completely honest, I did watch a little bit of them this morning. So I took last night off, but this morning I had to get a game on just to get a feel of what, the little bit that I told you there. So it'll be, a work in progress leading to Monday's practice.
Okay. Now you get into practice during the week. And I do know as coaches, sometimes, how we gear our team early in the year, a lot of skill work, a lot of conditioning work. And then as you get into league play or games, you got to get into scouting reports, what the other team does. So, and those practice early might be 2.5 hours, whatever. Now we get to the end of the year where we cut things down, try to save legs a little bit. How do you mesh your practices? Like, what will you do in practice? Is it strictly Green Run, or do you do some of your stuff? Is there any drill sessions going on? How do you structure your late practices now this coming week?
Well, it'll definitely be a balance of working on Albemarle basketball, which is number one priority, and then also getting in some of the things that we need to do to be successful against Green Run. It won't be all Green Run, that's for sure. We've cut practice down to, hour and 45 minutes or so at this time of the year. We haven't had a Saturday off in a long, long time. So I told them, I want you to see you Monday with fresh legs and ready to go, and, giving them 2 days off here. So, it'll be a combination of the drills that we normally do, our progression throughout the season, all of them a little bit shorter nowadays, than they were at the beginning. And then also our team play and our scouting report as well.
It's Greg Maynard, the head basketball coach of the Albemarle Patriots, going for that first state championship when he's got 615 career victories, a Region 5 seed crown in the title game. And I told us to Ed, and I do sincerely mean this, Coach, not every matchup do we feel like we've got two quality people that run their programs the right way, but we definitely feel that way with you and Green Run in this matchup, and we'll have a lot of joy for whoever wins it. Certainly there's always sadness for whoever ends up runner-up in any of these championship games, but it should be a lot of fun coming up on Thursday, and we're privileged to be on the broadcast coverage with it on the NFHS network. So if you can't make it to the Siegel Center to support on and root on either Albemarle or Green Run or just whoever's playing in the building, you can watch it with us on the NFHS network. Always a pleasure, my friend, and we look forward to it. Safe travels, and we'll see you on Thursday.
Thank you very much for having me on, and I'm looking forward to it as well.
We'll see you up there, Greg. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
And it's Coach Greg Maynard with us here on 757 Saturday Sports Talk. Albemarle going for some history coming up on Thursday at VCU in Richmond. Stick around. You'll hear from Green Run, Coach Kenneth Harris and Kass Jackson after last night's win over Woodson. That's coming your way with Jack Lowe here on CoVA Sports TV. In fact, after the break, you'll hear from Kass Jackson before we bring in another special guest. The Region 1A, check that, Region 1B champion Franklin Broncos will be in the championship round at VCU against George Wythe, and Robbie Cutchins, who came on last week, will stop by for a few minutes to give us his thoughts. And our man Keith, who told us, Ed, I didn't even know this, Keith is a Franklin graduate. How about that? I thought he went to Sussex. At least that's what
he graduated from like 5 high schools.
Yeah, that's what he said.
He just walked across anybody's stage.
We'll get to the bottom of that when we come back here on CoVA Sports TV after you hear from Kass Jackson with Jack Lowe. But we have to pay the bills because that's how we stay on with you on CoVA Sports TV. And that means you hear from a few of the sponsors that make it possible for us. Stay tuned.
What is more? Is it more reps, more strength, more stamina? We say it's all of that, but it's greater than just what's in the mirror. It's about improving your mental and physical health. More is a feeling of achievement, fulfillment, confidence. It's looking better, feeling better, being better, and it's our mission to get you there. Because here, you are more. One Life Fitness.
As a banker at Town Bank, we believe that people bank with people, not with banks. You're looking for an actual personal relationship, and that's what you get at our bank. You get that person that gets to know you, gets to know your business, is there for you. I think that is what motivates us, what drives us, and the idea that we are trying to serve others and enrich lives, I think is very true.
All right, now talking with Kass Jackson after Green Run knocks off Woodside. Kass, I'm asking everybody this: just what does it mean for this team, the seniors, everybody on this team to be able to knock off a team like that?
It means everything. You know, we came a long way, and just going out there and playing hard and just taking pride in defense. It just need everything. So we just hate losing. Couldn't lose today.
Yeah, and you guys, it's been a hump for you guys last year during the regular season this year, but you finally get over it. Just what's it mean to finally, I mean, you've been through it, you're a senior on this team, you've played so many big games, to finally get over that hump, and now you get to go to Richmond. Talk about the week.
It just means a lot. You know, Woodside is a 2-time state champion team. They knocked us off last year. They beat us earlier in the year, and this game today, we just knew everybody knew what to do, including me.
Yeah. name for them, Messiah Wells-Stevens, point guard. He's obviously very good for Woodside. You seem to do a great job containing him defense. Can we talk about that matchup and how you are against him?
He's a great point guard. You know, he controls that team very well. And it's just me stepping up to the plate, stepping up to the table to play defense and lock up and stay in front of him.
And as your teammate Trey, I've got to ask you, you're a student in high school. So you had to sit through school all day today, all day yesterday. Just what's it like sitting in school today, trying to wait for tonight, also just not getting distracted?
It's really nothing. You know, I'm a student athlete. So
the day didn't go by slow at all.
You know, I was excited for this game, but just staying focused on my schoolwork and making sure I do my work so I won't have to worry about nothing.
There you go. Now you guys get to go to Siegel Center. You got to wait a whole week. Then you go to Siegel Center at VCU. You're going to play Albemarle. Just what's that matchup going to mean to finally get there and just try and get it done?
I haven't seen them yet, but we're going to prepare. We're going to watch film. We're going to get our bodies right. We're going to recover, and we'll be ready coming, Thursday?
Yep, Thursday.
Yes, sir, Thursday.
This is 757 Saturday Sports Talk. Here are Matt Hatfield and Coach Ed Young.
And we're back with you here on 757 Saturday Sports Talk on CoVA Sports TV. We'll be joined in just a second by Robbie Cutchins, head basketball coach of the Franklin Broncos. Ed, but you heard from Kass Jackson. We've got Kenneth Harris coming up in a little bit. We've also had on Greg Maynard of Albemarle, Mike Desmond of South Lakes, Doug Craig of CG Woodson. It's been a jam-packed show. Like, share, and subscribe with us and interact with us on the program. But your thoughts on the PG for the Stallions, who certainly made some key plays in the fourth quarter down the stretch against another very good point guard in Messiah Wells-Stevens, who's headed to Radford.
Kass, I tell you, I've seen a lot of games this year. If I'm picking an all Ed Young seen team this year, he's on it. He might be that starting point guard. Of course, I love that kid, Doug's kid, Chilton from Woodside too, and then
Woodson
from Woodside. So it'd be tough to.
Adrian Newton at Morey too. Won't leave him out.
Yeah, that's another. Boy, I tell you what, I would be set at point guard. I've got 4. Man, it'd be tremendous to try to knock that down. But kid is big time. He plays his best in the big moments, the big time of the game. I thought what I saw of him, especially last night, handled the pressure coming at him that Woodside really throws at you. And he went against another stud with Messiah coming at him and made some key shots. The only thing I would get on Kass throughout the year is you got to be a little bit better at the foul line.
It's been a little bit of an iffy area for him, but he made 2 big ones last night to push it from 1 to 3. So kudos to him there. Yeah,
that was real big because he's going to have the ball. He's going to get fouled. Yeah. And most good coaches are not going to foul great foul shooters. They're going to look for guys that can't hit it. So, and the ball's going to be in his hand because he handles so well. He's the calming factor for that squad. He's the straw that stirs that drink, so to speak. So he has to be out there, and I think he handles himself very well. He doesn't seem very boastful, flashy, whatever. Kind of knows what is expected of him, and he handles it, which not a lot of teenagers can do. And he calms his teammates down because, like I said, there are some times he has a couple teammates come down and they jack that shot up.
Yeah.
Coach, I felt it. Coach, I was open. It doesn't matter. That could be very costly in the heat of a battle against a team that's pretty good. And Kass seems to be able to speak to his teammates and they seem to be able to respond to him. So that's big.
Look who now joined us on the program. At this time, we're joined by the head basketball coach of the Franklin Broncos, 1B champs, and you didn't jinx him, Ed. He's in the state finals. I didn't pick him last week. Ed picked you, Coach, and you're in the championship round. And by the way, Lamar Barrett, NBA scout, Franklin native, is scrambling right now. He's trying to get in the building. I don't know if he's trying to get into freebie as a media credential, what he's doing, but he's got to be there at Franklin. He's gathering up all his Franklin friends. I think he's got to leave the SEC or Big Ten tournament. Robbie Cutchins with us. Coach, congratulations. You're playing for the hardware.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it.
Hey, I told this nut job I'm going with Franklin. He says –
well, look, a couple things I got to get out of the way real quick. I got 3 things I've been sitting here listening to some great interviews, okay?
And you've been on for an hour waiting, so we thank you immensely.
Yeah, no, much love, man. I love listening to these coaches. These guys are very knowledgeable. They know the game. They've been around the game, and it's just a lot of fun all the way around. So I've enjoyed sitting in the background and listening. But last week when I got on, you guys were talking about teams scoring 100, 110, 120 points. And obviously I told you that scared me to death. It takes us 3 games to even remotely get close to that.
Right.
Today, when I get on, you're talking about Ed Young crowd surfing. Now, that really makes me nervous. I hadn't had any breakfast this morning. I didn't get to bed about 4 o'clock this morning. But these are things that are really unwelcoming, if you will.
Hey, Rob, you now see what I got to put up with. And these previous coaches, they tell me, they said, Ed, I don't know, how the hell you do it with him? I go, I'm serving now so I can get to heaven later. Okay.
I love it, man. That's good stuff. But all due respect, Ed, I really appreciate you believing in us and believing in what we do, because obviously I need Matt to keep picking against us, because that is working in our favor.
It is.
Normally when we stop, I tell the guys, hey, we go to McDonald's because we can't afford anything else. But last night we ended up going to Cookout, and as we're walking in the Cookout, a couple of my assistants said, hey, Cut, have you noticed Hatfield ain't picked us yet? I said, man,
that's why we're going to Cookout.
Keeps picking us, we're good.
Yeah, that's why you're going to Cookout. But I don't. I kind of was picking with my heart instead of my head, because Lancaster's pretty damn good. But I said, hold on, I'm going to go with it. What the hell? Because Robert's got. I know you. I know you a little bit more than I know the Lancaster people. He's got his kids playing hard. I know you've been through some stuff this year. And it's not one of your better teams. I mean, I've had to go get some of your better teams. Like, what the hell this year I picked to play this guy for? But it's just something I felt from a distance that they're going to put it together. They're going to do something, and that was not an easy game. And you're up there.
It's an extremely tough place to play. And hats off, first of all, to Lancaster. Dwayne Penn's done a phenomenal job since he's been there. He and I rapped a little bit last night when we first got up there, and I told him I know he's been through some stuff as well this year, but he's done a phenomenal job with that crew. And but with all the love and the text messages and the phone calls that we've been getting, and myself, and it's like I tell guys that there's nothing sexy about this group. As we talked about last week on the air, we don't have marquee names. We don't have guys that everybody in the state is running to watch. But if you love scrappiness, if you like defense, and you love just getting after it for 32 minutes, that's what keeps us in basketball games, and that's what we do.
Works that way. Well, tell me about last night's game with Lancaster, because certainly they're a team that was playing really well. They had hit a rocky patch. You referenced a little bit, and Dwayne Penn's, his best player goes to John Marshall and Troy Henderson. It's a new group, but they started to hit their stride. What was sort of the things that enabled you to get that win and keep them bottled up? Because your defense, much like we talked about with Green Run in Class 5, oh my goodness, they hold Woodside to below its norm, the fewest points they've scored in a basketball game in literally 13 years. You're able to hold a really good Lancaster group to 34 points as well. They scored 77 on Alta Vista in the quarterfinal round.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one thing we talked about. And obviously, since we figured out what our identity was as the season went on this year and understood that it was going to be certain things we needed to do defensively, we pick points totals. We look and see what teams have done throughout the season. We look to see what they're averaging. We look to see what their lowest point total is, the lowest point total they've had in the game this year. And then going into last night, Lancaster's lowest output, I think, was 47 points. So we made it a point to say, hey, okay, guys, if we can hold them under 50, we got a chance in this game. Now, granted, I didn't know until after the game, because I was talking to one of the radio guys up there before and after the game, and I laughed. I said, well, I didn't know we had to hold them under 40 because we weren't going to score with 41 points. But bottom line, if you play defense, you can stay in basketball games. The kids doing a phenomenal job.
And now, Ed, they take on a machine in George Wythe that can really shoot the basketball. And in terms of points being scored, they do it at a different level than just about anybody in Class 1, as they're averaging, I want to say, about 73, 74 points per game. So it's going to be a big challenge. 75. 75. I was up by 1 or 2.
I had to look at that last night on the way home. I said, good gracious, let me see how bad it is. So.
Yeah, so it's a big matchup for you. But even before you dig into that matchup, going back to a little bit of the defense, what are the things in order that you have to preach on in order to play that type of defense? And you shouted out a couple of names last week, but tell us about, we're so concerned about points, rebounds, but tell me about the guys that are getting you the deflections, the blocks, the hustle plays that translate to you getting those leads and winning these ball games.
The cool thing about it is, obviously, you have to have some speed. You have to have some athleticism. And a lot of times in some of these other coaches, we talked about guys that are on college radars, et cetera, that have the basketball talent, if you will. But we've taken a lot of our athleticism and our speed and tried to put them in the right spots. And once kids understood that, hey, you flying around and causing ruckus and contending shots and contesting shots or whatever and cutting off drives, doesn't necessarily mean that we have to get traps and steals all the time. It just means that you're keeping them in front. You're making them force up bad shots. You get some long rebounds, and it slows the game down in a sense that until kids actually see it, they don't understand it. And I think that's one thing in the second half of the season, and as we started to make this run, that the kids have really, really got excited about, because then they found out what their true identity was, and they've been able to get after it.
Ed?
Well, I think, Rob, it's easy to sell offense because ball and basket, when they're little and they grab a ball, the first thing they do, they bounce it. If you put a basketball in, they'll throw it in. So the defense is where we have our struggles of making kids really buckle down and try to make them understand, as good as an offensive player you can possibly be, there's only one ball. But on defense, there's 5 positions.
Yeah.
And apparently you have sold that. And you're not in a big crowd, because a lot of really good coaches have trouble selling the defense, and now they have to think, damn, we're gonna have to score 80 points because we can't hold anybody under 77. But your guys have done it, because Lancaster, again, is a team that can score it. You're going to play with a team that can score it. And is there any reward system, trick system that you got your kids to say, you know what, coach, we got this. We're going to play the D. We're going to defend that. We're going to go for that loose ball. We're going to get deflection. Anything in particular you've done, or is it's just a buy-in period?
It's just a buying period, Ed. It's nothing one thing. And like we talked about last week, obviously I'm big on culture. I talk about it all the time because that's what I tell the kids. You buy into a culture, you can be successful once you find out what your identity is. And when you have kids coming up and asking, hey, Coach, what's their highest point total of the year? But what's their lowest point total of the year? Can we hold them to this? They don't care what they're doing individually. They don't care about who's scoring this and who's doing that. Yes, we have guys that lead our team offensively, obviously. Christian Grant's done a phenomenal job with the ball in his hands. Our big man, Kamari Hicks, who I also think is one of the better players in the state at our level, has done his thing this year. But just like last night, he didn't have a big offensive game, but he altered a ton of shots and he pulled down 11 rebounds. He had a huge game against Northumberland in the quarterfinal game the other night, but you just never know whose night it's going to be. And I think that's one thing that makes this group special. And just like last night, not a very high scoring game. So you get a couple guys that knock on double figures, but you got other guys that are making all the plays that aren't in the stat book. And that's what makes this team so special.
Robbie Cutchins, head basketball coach of the Region 1B champion Franklin Broncos, our guest here on 757 Saturday Sports Talk on CoVA Sports TV. Franklin in action coming up on Friday, March 14th at 2:30 at the Siegel Center in Richmond. VCU to take on George Wyth's Bulldogs, 26-4. They've been ranked number 1 in the state all year, has Wyth. And Franklin coming back from a 2-8 start. They put a lot of schools that were in the Class 6, Class 5, Class 4 levels to help prep them for their Tri-Rivers District and the region tournament that they had. And here they are playing for the state championship. First time, is it since 93 or 94, Coach?
93. It's the only time Franklin High School has been in the state championship game.
How about that? And that was a few years after our buddy Lamar, Ed. I think Lamar graduated there in the 80s before he went to Elizabeth City State. So pretty neat run here for these Broncos.
Well, with Lamar, I don't know. I think Franklin was probably his best 9 years of his life. I don't know if he just ran across the stage or he just left. I don't know. He ain't listening right now, so I can say that.
No,
but it's
he's at some game, so he's not listening. You're right.
Yeah, he's handling business, but he's going to make sure he represents the Broncos one way or the other at VCU.
Yeah. Well, listen, I even had I was with, as you know, Coach, I was with our OD women's basketball team in Florida, Pensacola, and fortunately, big shout out to Kieran Donahue, former men's assistant coach and was interim coach last year for Jeff Jones. He's giving me a ride back to the airport yesterday, and he's like, I was telling Dennis Wolf, our buddy Lamar's got to represent little Franklin High School next week in the state championship. They win tonight against Lancaster, and lo and behold, you did it. So it's even made the word all around the globe right now.
Yeah, man, it's awesome, man. I think we touched on it last week, man. The 1A level gets undersold a lot, in my opinion, and the Northern Neck is full of athletes. They got great support up there. But Chuck and I, the AD from Lancaster, were texting a few minutes ago, and he's like, man, I think we had over 1,300 people there last night, and I'm like, it just shows, man, you put good products on the floor, good programs on the floor, a lot of good things happen, communities come together, and the fan support was awesome from both sides, from Lancaster and Franklin represented well up there.
Yeah, we got to shout out some guys that are former real quick coaches and ADs that are watching, principals like Andrew Duggan at South Lakes, who was watching over with Mike Desmond. I know you got a lot of respect, Ed, for Chuck Parrish over there too.
Yeah, I mean, I concur with what you're saying. I coached a little Suffolk High School when I first came to Virginia. We won the '87 state title, went to states a couple years, and it was, we beat people like Booker T. We beat a lot of the AA, AAA teams back at that time. And the story I always said when I got the Norview job after the '88 season, I was told you can't schedule any single or AA teams, and I'm like, why not? Because of what you did against Booker T last year as a Suffolk coach. You beat Booker T, which PO'd up some people up in that area. And I'm like, wait a minute, we were pretty doggone good. I mean, we weren't no fly-by-nighters. And the support. And Chuck called me yesterday getting some ideas about how things are going on with some of the other teams in the state. And he said, we feel blessed to be at home, number one, which I said, you guys shouldn't be. It should be neutral floor and all that. We got into that conversation. But he said how
it took 2 hours with you, but go ahead.
Right. How the support is going. They're putting in a new turf football field up there in Lancaster. They're going to get a new track. They're adding. I said, that's the way you should be doing it. I said, the smaller schools, the support is tremendous because, and he made mention, I talked with a good buddy of mine. You might know Mike Stevenson used to coach at Northumberland, longtime veteran. I talked to him yesterday and we were talking about it. And he said that the support at the smaller schools is you don't have a lot of other flair going on. And he made a great point in Northern Neck. You don't got discotheques. I said, Mike, they don't have discotheques no more. Well, you don't have clubs to go to. You don't have this to go to. It's the game. The game itself is the big thing. Whereas in the 6A, 5As, in the more metropolis-sized areas, there's other things to take people's money.
Yeah. And I'll just give you a quick example. Go to our message boards on VirginiaPreps.com. I know it's a shameless plug for our site. There are more posters and message posts on you guys in Class 1 and Class 2 than the larger classifications because I think a lot of your fans, Coach, you can speak to this, they live and breathe it. It is their community, and they really look forward to it at a different level where I think some of the fans, and this isn't meant to be derogatory, but I think they're just accustomed to it in Class 6, Class 5. It's almost the fast-moving world, whereas in Class 1, Class 2, this is like they live it, eat it, and breathe it.
Yeah, and I agree with that 100%, Matt. It's one of them things, you have a mix, obviously, but we've got a lot of people outside the city now that support as well. But the people within the city fan base, whether they have kids coming through the system or whether they've just been, long-term fans of the high school, they support, man. They look forward to it. And obviously we live in a world of just, a lot of doom and gloom, if you will. So anytime you have something positive happening, it brings so many people together. And I think I might have touched on this last week, but sports unifies people. It brings people together, all walks of life, and having people celebrate and hug and love like I've seen over the last month it's special to me. It's very warming, and like I said, we've knocked on that door a few times, man, but we had a hard time getting over the hump. One district, we've been to the regional championship game. We finally won that this year, and we've been to the state tournament a few times, but we were never able to get over the hump. And I think that culture has finally started taking its toll and it's paying dividends for these kids. And I love it when I see the community come together like they have.
A few minutes with Robbie Cutchins, head basketball coach of the Franklin Broncos, with us here on 757 Saturday Sports Talk. They're getting ready to take on George Wythe coming up on Friday, March 14th in the state finals at VCU, the Siegel Center in Richmond. NFHSnetwork.com is the place to subscribe and watch the games if you can't make it there in person to root on Franklin, George Wythe, whoever you want to see in those games, as you got wall-to-wall action beginning on Thursday and concluding on Saturday night. And before I let Ed jump back in here with you, Coach, we'll be helping getting these keys prepared for the game. Give me a couple that are going to be important for your team against this very explosive Wythe squad. We talked so much about John Marshall in Class 2, a juggernaut. I think if Wythe was in Class 2, Class 3, they could be competitive because if I'm not mistaken, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe they beat a Class 6 Annandale this year. Isn't that right? Did we lose you, Coach? I think you might have froze up here.
It did freeze up. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I said, correct me if I'm wrong. We talked so much about John Marshall in Class 2 being such a juggernaut. If I'm not mistaken, and you might know this better than me, looking at research, I think George Wythe as a Class 1, they could compete with a lot of Class 2s and Class 3s. Didn't they play or beat Annandale at Class 6 this year?
Yes, you're exactly right. This George Wythe team, I remember 2 years ago, obviously Lancaster's back-to-back state champion at 1A. But 2 years ago, I sat there and watched George Wythe play Lancaster, and I said, man, this team is young. I said, and they are good. I said, and they can shoot the ball extremely well. I expected to see them in the state championship in 23, which we did, again in 24, which I think Auburn maybe knocked them off last year.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought they were going to be there 3 years in a row just because of how impressed I was with them. So they're a very, very good basketball team. The bottom line is we got to keep them out of 70s. We got to keep it down a little bit and try to keep them in front of us. But they do a very good job. And I told somebody this morning, it seems like everything they do offensively is on a string. It's very, their motions are very good. Their angles are very good. It's not a lot of wasted space, if you will. Everything is very efficient, and we got to be able to cut down on a lot of those lanes.
And I'd imagine getting to the free throw line is a big deal to win that battle, the physicality to make it a game they're not used to playing in terms of, like you said, style, tempo, and tenor.
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing. It's not always consistent, but a lot of times you look at the different regions throughout the state, from the east side of the state to the west side of the state. Sometimes you have extremely good shooting basketball teams on the west side of the state, it seems like, throughout years past. But there are also some very good defensive teams on the west side of the state, but then you bring, extremely good defense from the east side, and it just kind of counters, and you kind of hope that's kind of what happens this go around. It kind of balances things out, and we can make it a heck of a basketball game.
Ed?
Robbie, we talked with Doug Craig, Mike Desmond, and Greg Maynard before you. As I think you heard some of those. My comment to them, some of them was, okay, what do you guys do now in taking us through preparation? So I'm going to ask you, and you're taking your Franklin team today. Obviously, you're probably watching some film, but the kids, no practice today, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe.
No, I love Coach's approach a while ago. We're trying to get our legs back, and we're trying to keep our legs under us, man. I got a couple guys that are limping right now, just from deep thigh bruises and stuff. So I'm trying to keep them off their feet as much as possible. And so yeah, it's more preparation now than it is actually on your feet and things of that nature. And that's the same approach we took throughout the region this year, and the same approach we've taken into the state tournament.
Now, when you get back on the floor on Monday, you got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Take us through. I know a lot of times us coaches will cut practice time down as the season goes over. Save some legs. We do some Franklin work. We do some skill work. Whatever. How will your practices be if you could take us behind the scenes, and also if you would too, because we allowed the other coaches to do it. Shout out your assistant coaches who's helping you and how your preparation is those 3 days.
Yeah, man. The cool thing about, your staff, and I'm sure everybody has a unique story. So mine probably is no different than anybody else's. But, I've got 5 assistants that do help me. 4 of them are extremely invested. The other one has been with me for a while. But out of those guys, 4 of those 5 guys have played for me. They've been through the program at some point in time throughout the years. And they know what it's about. We're not doing a lot of things different now than we were then. But that goes back to the culture. I've got Donzel Sharon, who was a quarterback on the 2008 state championship football team at Franklin, who was one of the best athletes I ever coached. He's my head JV coach, my head assistant on varsity. I have Adam Grant, who was a great basketball player, played for me briefly.
Wait, that's the Adam Grant that played at Bryant University in Norfolk Collegiate?
That's Adam Grant played at Brian played overseas. He actually played JV ball for me back in the day.
I remember. I didn't know he was on your staff. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, he's been on my staff the last 2 years, and he and I are good friends. And he wanted to come back home and wanted to help, and obviously you like to have somebody like that. Kenneth Kendrick, good friend of mine, he's on the staff. Terry Warren and Reggie Ralph. So it's cool because you got a lot of Franklin guys that have blue and gold in their blood from back when, and they do a heck of a job. And in the coaches group chat this morning, some of the coaches were texting back and forth, but they thank me for letting them be a part of it, which I didn't. That's not what it's about, and then they're saying, yeah, but you listen to us, when we get in your ear, you take what we tell you, and you don't mind putting that to use. And I think that's what makes successful programs, because as Coach was saying a while ago from I think it was Woodson, those guys know a lot. Your assistants, they are very knowledgeable, but I mean, they're spitting back the same thing to me that I was drilling in them years ago, but they can see things that you may or may not see throughout the game when they're sitting there and the mind's not racing and storming the sidelines. So, but the assistant coaches are awesome, and they're a huge part of what we do.
That's great to hear. Well, we thank you for stopping on for a few minutes. We look forward to being a part of the broadcast coverage, whether it's me on camera or Ed on camera. We'll definitely be help preparing our production team with the keys and the game notes. I'll probably hit you up later this week for some of our stats for previews of the game, if that's cool. But we look forward to it. It's going to be fun for Franklin and George Wythe to go head-to-head. I know history's going to be made. George Wythe has been knocking on this door, and you guys over there at Franklin could be first ever to get that done. That would be something special, and it's going to be a memorable day either way coming up on Friday in the Class 1 finals. Always a pleasure. I'll make sure I don't pick you. Ed will pick you. That's the good juju. And you're a voter for no crowd surfing for Ed Young is what you say, right? No crowd surfing?
Yeah, man. I don't think that's safe for anybody involved. But yeah, on a different note, we've been underdogs all year, man. Other than the regional quarterfinal game, I think we hosted at home against Buffalo Gap. So the kids embrace that and they enjoy that.
Yeah, from 2-8 to here we are in a state championship. What a wonderful story it is for you and the Broncos. All the best, my friend, and we'll talk to you coming up on Friday.
Matt, I appreciate you guys, man. Have a good day.
Hey, enjoy the run. We'll be up there to see you and have fun with those kids. And like I said, I'm going to pick you, I think, overall with probably a little bit more talented, but you reminded me of the NC State team years back. Boy, it was destiny. So when you win it and you're running around trying to hug somebody, don't hug me.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't be running around because I probably wouldn't be able to walk. I've been a hot mess, man. Regional championship, to get that and then to win these last two games, man, it puts you in a different state. So I appreciate it.
Enjoy it, man. Enjoy it.
Yep. Thanks, guys. Take care, man.
Robbie Cutchins with Franklin Broncos with us here on 757 Saturday Sports Talk. We'll come back. I think we got one more segment today. You're going to hear from Kenny Harris of Green Run. His team won it. We'll go through the brackets, give you our picks for the boys and girls Class 6 to Class 1 title games, and also I'm going to get Ed's thought on a couple things, including that top 5 coach discussion that Mr. DiCandido brought up. I'm going to hold his feet to the fire and see if his toes do get hot and burn. It's all coming your way to close out this splendid edition of 757 Saturday Sports Talk, the final one before the championship games get underway at the Siegel Center in VCU in Richmond. But we have to pay the bills one more time out here and hear from some of the people that make it possible for us to stream with you each and every week, including Town Bank. Back in a bit to finish it up on this splendid Saturday in March on CoVA Sports TV.
Did you know that the minimum limits in Virginia are $30,000? $30,000 is a lot of money on an individual basis, but if you're involved in a personal injury matter, that's not enough. Here at Williams Lloyd's, we're happy to provide a consultation on the amount of coverage you have in your vehicle. It can be confusing. Not many people understand it. You know you need to have it, but do you have enough? Give us a call today at 757-547-5555 so we can help you prepare in the case of an automobile accident or any other personal injury matter that you or your family may find yourself in.
For any athlete, making it to the top sometimes comes with a few steps back. That's why there's CHKD Sports Medicine. Advanced diagnostics, treatment, and rehabilitation for sports injuries, just for young athletes like yours.
What's up at DQ? Oh, just the best deal ever. The $7 bacon cheeseburger meal deal. Bacon cheeseburger, fries, drink, and a sundae. No time to be modest. It's all full size for just $7. Right now at DQ. Happy tastes good.
Well, it's everybody's favorite time of year again. Time to prepare to make your annual donation to that infernal revenue service. And if you're like me, you need help. Help to keep that donation as small as possible. So get off your W-2 and call John Maynard at John's Tax Service. 455-6763.
As a banker at Town Bank, we believe that people bank with people, not with banks. You're looking for an actual personal relationship, and that's what you get at our bank. You get that person that gets to know you, gets to know your business, is there for you. I think that is what motivates us, what drives us. And the idea that we are trying to serve others and enrich lives, I think is very true.
What makes a life a good one? Is it our adventures? Or the friends we find along the way? Is it the challenges we conquer together? Maybe it's the people's lives we touch every single day. So, what makes a life a good one? You'll have to figure that one out for yourself.
After more than 50 years of innovation, AstroTurf still leads the way. The inventor of artificial turf does it all. right here in the USA. We engineer, test, manufacture, and install the world's most innovative fibers and turf technologies with over 30,000 tracks and fields worldwide. AstroTurf, powered by Sport Group.
Here you go. Give me a prediction about the American League East. Who's going to win it?
I have great fears of the Skankies because they're loaded. They'll buy their way out of anything.
This is 757 Saturday Sports Talk. Here are Matt Hatfield and Coach Ed Young.
That's right, the Skankies. Go O's. Go Diamondbacks. Go everybody that plays the Skankies and the Dodgers. That's what I say. Baseball's around the corner. We're going to get Timmy Kirkchin, who's been on the show before, coming up soon. We've got some college basketball guests. I know we're efforting our pals like Steve Lapis and Seth Greenberg and many others who have either been on with us radio-wise, podcast-wise before. I know Brad Wachtel is probably going to be maybe available to come back with us. He was doing a great job to come on with the Facts and Bracks about a few weeks ago. And we got a lot of things to go over with in the world of sports here on 757 Saturday Sports Talk and CoVA Sports TV. But right now, the state tournament is the hot topic. And you've heard from so many coaches today, from Doug Craig and Mike Desmond and Robbie Cutchins and Greg Maynard. You heard from Kass Jackson and David Trey Miller of the Green Run Stallions. We're going to go through the brackets, and I want to hit on 3 bullet points before we sign off on this show, including Ask Coach Young, a top 5, and let me not forget about a shout-out to a state championship team from the 757, another sport that I promised I would do last week, and I forgot because we were skedaddling over to the region finals with Smith and Lansdowne, Ed. But it's time to hear from another coach from Virginia Beach who did the unthinkable last night. Well, Darnell Dozier, that's not the unthinkable. He's used to winning state championships going for number 15, but a guy who's going to be going for the first championship at VCU. He won one during the COVID year, lost one the year after COVID to Stonebridge, and we're talking about the GW Danville alum now representing the green of Green Run. Who is that? You just going to sit there?
Come on, with Kenny Harris, baby. Everybody knows who he is. I want to hear what he's got to say. I understand. Supposedly they gave him a Gatorade bath last night. I want to see if he got one.
He was sweating in this. This is a post-game interview that wasn't his best, but just his, you'll love it. Here it is with Jack Lowe on CoVA Sports TV.
All right, Coach Kenneth Harris, they knocked off the Woodside Wolverines. Coach, just first off, before we get into anything, just what does it mean to you? What does it mean to this team, their seniors and everybody?
Man, they put in the hard work. Every year, man, they was a step closer. You know, and this year our only step was to make it a state championship. Okay, we made it. So, you know, we still got one more. I don't know who we got. Nobody knows who we got, but that's fine. But, you know, other than that, man, for these kids, man, as much work as they put in, man, they deserve it, man.
You guys knock off Woodside, who's been there multiple years in a row now, and you lost to him last year. You also lost him in the regular season. Now you get him. Just what does it mean to knock off the Dynasty?
I mean, to play them, you know, last year and play them this year, it really helped because we were able to game plan way more better and no personnel. But, you know, hats off to Coach Welsh, man, and what he does over there, man. You know, I'm just glad to be in the opportunity to play him again and finally get an opportunity. So, you know, we knew that it had to go through Woodside to even get to the state championship.
I got 2 names for you. That's Silas Barksdale and Messiah Wells Stevens. You guys, I'd say, contain them. You did a good job defensively. Talk to me about that in the game plan.
Yeah, we told them all week we're going to have to win this game by defending. You know, we got to keep Silas. You know, they're going to score. They're great players, Division I players. They're going to score, but we got to limit what they do. We got to take away what they want to do best. You know, and I felt like we did a good job.
Coach, you're soaked. Your team celebrated you in the locker room. Just talk about this team's culture. Everybody seems to love each other. They seem to have no more fun playing with any other team than themselves. Just talk about the culture of this team.
Man, the culture is excellent, man. They play for, like you just said, they play for each other. We told them today, man, y'all like a Voltron, man. You know, we need everybody, the head, the leg, the everything, man. So, you know, to put it together, you know, with my coaching staff, heck of a staff, man. We put a good game plan together, man, and we really, you know, found a way.
And now you got to wait a whole week, and then you go to Siegel Center up in Richmond at VCU. Just what's the next week going to be like? How are you going to keep yourselves working in practice? How's that going to go?
I mean, we're going to need it, man. We you know, you get the game plan, and that's always good. And the injuries, man, those are 2 important things, man. So, you know, we know we're going up against a good team, whether it's Riverside or Albemarle, you know, but we know it's going to be a good team, and it's going to be a good game.
That was Kenneth Harris with Jack Lowe on CoVA Sports TV. He was sweating a lot. He didn't know who he was going to play at the moment. And I think he dropped 39 mans. And was that 2 minutes and change? I think it was 39 mans. Come on, man.
Yeah, it looked like he had just played the whole game.
Yes.
He was going through it. And
by the way, Larry Obama, who comes on during the week with Johnny, Jack, Don Swelba, and the boys, and we've had Larry on our show before from the pilot, does an awesome job. He's got a great video for folks to check it out on his Twitter feed, LH Obama. It's in the pilot article too, where he gives his assistant Rod Cooper a hug, and he was stomping. I don't know if you had checked out of the gym yet to beat the traffic and beat the rush, Ed, but it's a pretty funny video. It is worth checking out if you haven't yet.
Yeah, I wanted to be able to stay, and I should have to kind of get that feel of what it was like, because I know he's been knocking on that door for a bit. But it was jam-packed there last night, using one of your phrases. So I had my car parked not in a regular spot. So I said, let me get out before the rush does so I can get back, because Ocean Lakes is out there a ways too. But it's real. Kenny is real. And when he's not, that nobody else isn't. But, his emotion is real in that. And he does a great job with his kids. After the win the other night against Maury, if you remember, he had 6-7 former players come walking into the locker room, which I like seeing that, because it's like Robbie Cutson said, you establish a culture. His whole staff is almost all former players that played for him. That's kind of cool to have that, where guys you have around you who know you, who played for you. I always like that too. Have an idea how you think, not that they're always going to agree with you. You have to get over that part, because sometimes they still look at you as coach and don't know where coach is. So he has done that with Coach Cooper, and has been with him a long time. His son played for him too. So I'm happy.
By the way, all congrats to Jake Cooper. We called a lot of his memorable games with Eli Kennedy, that dynamic duo that Green Run won a championship the COVID year and then finished runner-up. But Jake was all CIAA over there at Virginia State. And matter of fact, Clint Wright's son, Clint Wright Jr. from Latham, on that Virginia State team that got some CIAA hardware. So pretty cool to see that. And, you always think back to, I know you played him a memorable game, Ashley James, the half-court shot, the late, great Ashley James. His sister, by the way, last night, Isaiah, go ahead, I think points or free throws as NC State advanced in the ACC tournament. She helped them get to a Final Four last year. But we think back to the late, great Ashley James and how tragic his passing was, but what he did, his indelible mark. They have that AJ benefit game every year with Green Run and Lake Taylor, but certainly he's been an inspiration to, and maybe this is a strong statement to say, Ed, but two of the biggest inspirations, I think, to Green Run basketball the last 25 plus years. You were part of that renaissance as you inherited a winless team, and then Danny Earp took over after you, and Kenny Harris has taken it on to another level here. But BJ Jenkins, one of your former guys who I know is doing what do you call it with the music industry? Some rap, dropping some bars, some lyrics, some stuff like that. He gave me one of his flyers of the day, but he went on to Murray State, NCAA tournament, and then AJ. I think those were two of the big inspirations for kids coming up that people looked up to from Green Run.
Yeah, when I took over Green Run years ago, the program was really down, and it was a program before that was pretty good.
Mark Butts and Mike Head both did a good job, as well as Bill Cochran in the 80s. So they had
Mark Butts was over there. Right.
Yeah.
But then they hit a lull. They just hit a lull where it was tough. I know I got the job like in late October because nobody wanted it. And we got it going. And then I had the opportunity to move on to Nansman. It was not an easy decision. And then Danny Earp, my assistant, took over, kept it a well pace. And then and it's been good ever since. Kenny's kind of taken it to a whole nother level. And has done great with the kids that have come in there and moved on to some college opportunities too. And you're right, player-wise, AJ was, hit the shot against us. He was kind of that known, superstar. Like the little kids loved him. And then, of course, the tragic situation of losing him. And
by the way, that was the big moment for Green Run, because remember, they had been snake bit by Hampton for years and years in the playoffs. And that game, your team was getting ready to pull off another upset. I remember Jamal Boone hits free throws to tie it up, and Jamal does a lot of video and photos now at games. And the game was deadlocked. A lot of lead changes and ties in that game. Elijah Kennedy got hurt in that game. And then you both called timeouts to tactically try to adjust how you're going to do the inbound and how you're going to guard it. And he hits a shot that will live on in infamy, one of the great shots in tournament history, regional states that come to mind if you're doing a Sports Center top 10 of VHSL game-winning shots. If it's not 1, if it's not 10, it's somewhere in between. It's on that list of shots to win a game. And certainly I think that was a breakthrough moment for that program. And a lot of programs, Ed, state programs, you have to have that breakthrough moment. That was theirs.
Yeah, and now they're getting a shot out there. And, of course, we interview these guys today. We hear them, and they still got a game to go. The game, the championship game. You got to be careful because, yes, you want to get there, but you don't want to just be happy to get there. You want to try to win it. And I understand these guys a little bit today, but Monday for sure, they'll bring it all back together, get them refocused, cut out all the flack and whatever, and then try to get really into that. And that goes back to what I said. I just wish this tournament was at one site from game 1 on. Give them that total atmosphere that they're there. Even if, team has to stay overnight, a night or two because they're winning. It's part of that aurora of what a state tournament is. Give them that total feeling. Because, some of these kids won't play college ball. Some of these kids, this will be their only shot at a state tournament or something this big, unless they go on to a college team and they play for a national title on a college level. So let's make it big for them. Let's make it really, really special. And I'm just hoping it will happen eventually. I don't know what the state. I know there's other things, and we've talked about this. And like you said, we could have a show just on that. And maybe we need to do that with some state representatives and say, okay, let's figure this out. How can we do this? That we can. But, it needs to be there. And, Green Run is one of our local teams along with Princess Anne that will be trying to get a state championship. I know I feel real good about Princess Anne. It's not, you got to win it. It's not just handed to you.
Well, let me pause right there. Just 3 from the 757. It was a rough day mostly, but you got Green Run boys, Princess Anne girls, Franklin boys, if you count them in the 757, because they are. A lot of teams went down, though. Hampton and Maynard girls, which you go to in a moment. Lansdowne and Smith boys go down. Hampton boys went down after trying to defend it in the quarterfinal round. Woodside boys go down to Green Run. So it's an interesting group, as Juanisha Evans-Wilson chimed in here. Great job, Coach. And Stallion States, here we come. KBez23 on Twitter said, thank you, Coach Ed. State tournament needs to be at one venue. Nova Hoops Legends mentions, that's our buddy Julian Brown all the time. VA needs a commish for B-ball to make this happen. Maybe we can make Ed the commish. Good Lord, if that happens, help us.
No, they want me because I'm going to do it right.
No more excuses. ODU, RU, LU, JMU, GMU, William & Mary, UVA, Virginia Tech. List goes on. They can make it happen, but they're scared. They scared is what he says. But
I don't know. I don't know if they're scared. It's just, and I know there's other things you got to think of. But I'm sorry, unless my little brain can be educated, you've got a year to work stuff out. You get to these colleges, and the colleges stop trying to make money off the high schools. Cut your thing down. You take a loss, you take a loss. You're going to have concessions, whatever. There's parking, whatever. You got a lot of high school kids and parents on your college campus. Let's make it a true state tournament. I just wish the kids, coaches, can have this to go through. Like a little town like Franklin. Those single A schools, the 2A schools. Make it even more big time for those people. So, but again, we're not the powers that be, but if I was, trust me, I'd make this thing work in some manner, somehow. We're going to get this done.
Well, let's on this extra long edition of the program, because we'll be a little bit condensed next week, because we'll be broadcasting games next Saturday at VCU, and then we'll do a recap show, I'm sure, maybe a little bit of a mini preview show. But we got 3 items I want to hit on, and we'll go through the brackets here swiftly as we can, which is never that swiftly. You got South Lakes and Woodson in the title game in 6. Do you want to make a prediction now, or make everybody have to go to VirginiaPreps.com later to see it? You got a quick gut feel, a bold prediction yet? You want to hold off on it?
No, this one I got to do.
Back and forth. You're rocking back and forth.
I got to look at this one. I have an idea where to lean, but I'm not going to divulge that right now.
Okay. We both had Lakes and Smith. I'll be the guy on the limb right now. Well, I'm feeling South Lakes takes it. I had them over Smith, but I'm not going to be surprised, at least if Woodson wins it. Doug does an outstanding job. His kids are good. I think they have more pieces than South Lakes, but I think South Lakes hit a different gear after the second loss to Westfield. Then they beat them in the region championship, that game that Mike Desmond talked about where Jordan went off. So I'm leaning that way. Class 5, Green Run, Albemarle. I'm going to give the Stallions a little bit of Baltimore material. I think they're better than Albemarle, but I almost equate this, I do this a lot, to coming off a huge emotional win. I'm curious to see how they respond or how they follow it. Beating Woodside, who was the Dragon, Albemarle comes in, not a lot of fanfare. I almost give them a slight edge, not just because of that, but I think their big guy that Greg Maynard talked about, Marjolin Jackson, is going to pose some problems. A different kind of big, a thicker big, what Silas Barksdale was. And I think Albemarle, they've come back on some teams. James River came up short against Mills Godwin the first time, got him the second time. And they haven't seen an athletic team like Green Run. He mentioned LC Bird the closest, but I might give Albemarle a slight edge. But I think most people are going to think Green Run's won the championship. They haven't done it yet. They got to go beat Albemarle, who's mighty darn good themselves.
It's a good point. And they're coming off a very emotional win. I think a little bit more so than Albemarle because it was Woodside, two-time defending champion. Everybody had them on this line coming up. So, I got to look a little bit more into this too before I have it.
I'm not totally sure on my pick yet, but I will say Kass Jackson, late in the ball game, best player on the floor, that point guard can be the difference. He can be the difference.
Right. It's just, there's a lot into this because now we're going to the VCU venue, Siegel Center. That is going to shock some of the players that step on that court. So it just is. And anybody tells me I'm wrong, you're crazy. I know what it can do for kids on that level. I've been through that before. But this one's a little tough. I'm going to let the emotion die down too. And then before I look into this too, but both teams have a great case so far. It's 6 and 5. And you're looking at 4.
Yeah, Class 4. Verina, you had them over Hanley. I had Hanley. Hanley was winning this game for 3 quarters, and Verina came back to do it. Riley Axel was on last week. He's got Will Hopkins, a terrific point guard. It's a rematch of that region final. Remember, in the region championship game, these two teams squared off, and it was Atlee sort of surprising Verina. And Coach Kenneth Randolph has referenced that his team didn't do a lot of the little things, rebound, defend in that first meeting. It's a chance for a revenge here after they lost that previous encounter in the regional title game. And that was a game that Atlee won 66-59. I think Verina will be better equipped. This is a hard one to call. I give the slight lean right now today to Verina, but Atlee, they're well coached. I'm not going to doubt them because they can win this, Ed. They really can win this game between these two teams.
Yeah, see, that's another one. Boy, I can make a 50-50 case for either team that I'm going to have to sleep on that one a little bit because they're very different. And it depends on what strength shows up that day for that particular team. But this, again, another third straight interesting matchup and a good coaching matchup too in this one.
I think Verina's athleticism on the baseline could be on that VCU floor could be a big deal. They've got guys that have played in championship spots, Caleb Weiss, Damari Carter from football. And though they didn't take it against Phoebus, I think those guys are hungry to go get a ring after Verina lost last year to Hampton in the state semifinals. So I think that could be a little extra motivational boost that they could be searching. Plus, they lost to Atlee the first time. Had they beaten Atlee the first time, it might be more of a dangerous spot here for them. And Atlee's on a long winning streak. Only loss was to Heritage of Leesburg. And that, of course, came in a holiday tournament at Lake Braddock that Coach Axel talked about. How about Class 3? No Northside. They lose by 12 to Spotswood. It was more of a blowout, up 20+. Cy Hardy and Mikel Harvey. Great careers for Billy Hope Pope's team. Back-to-back state champs. Spotswood is in the title game. Now, they lost before their last trip to the state championship, I think about 12 years ago. Malik White from George Wythe of Richmond, now which is like Richmond High School of the Arts. He went to Providence, was the leader in that game. I got a chance to call with Andy Hayes several years back. So it's an interesting matchup. Spotswood's got 2 really good guards. Cam Pacheco is going to Mount St. Mary's. Tyler Sprague. Hopewell's led by Deshaun Spellman, Region Player of the Year, formerly of Lancetown. He's a D1 prospect. They got the big boy inside, Jameis Jordan. They got Nick Bird at the guard spot. Hopewell took down the only unbeaten public school boys team in Meridian, so there will be no unbeaten boys team. Hopewell, Spotswood. I give the edge to Hopewell in this one, Ed, but Spotswood, Chet Edwards, if you're doing a best coach in the state without a state championship ring, you either got Greg Maynard one or you probably got Chet Edwards one. It's one of those two guys, I think, unless I'm forgetting somebody. Those two leap to mind right away for me.
Yeah, again, contrast again in style here. I almost went with Spotswood over Northside. I just couldn't go against that backcourt. Couldn't go against Billy Pope.
You had it going to overtime, didn't you? I think you had an OT Northside, didn't you? I think.
Yeah, I think it was a 1-point game.
Yeah,
and that wasn't to be. So Chad's there, and he does a great job with what he got. I've seen Hopewell play this year one time. I haven't seen Spotswood. Hopewell immediately made me say, well, this is a doggone good team. They have a lot of what you really need to athletic, their size, they can shoot it, they defend you.
Beat Verona in that Coaches for the Cure event we saw, yeah.
Well, I know Chad isn't watching. I probably would lean towards Hopewell in this. I want to look a little deeper in that too, but I just think Hopewell's overall athleticism on the bigger floor
makes it a hard matchup, yeah. But I don't think it's a blowout. I think these, at least from 6 down to 3, are all going to be close, competitive games. I can't say that necessarily for the 2-1 games that we'll get to, although we just had Robbie Cutchins on it. I think 2-1 are expected to be more lopsided. Expected to be. Now, we expect it doesn't mean it always happens that way, but as we get to Class 2, that brings me to my great statistical point that I have to bring out to you, which I know you love this every year I do this because it just gets people all fired. And by the way, I keep tweeting it. Someone says, why do you keep tweeting this? I keep tweeting it just to get people fired up. That's why I do it. I love to get people fired up. That's how I roll.
See, people don't know you. I got to keep trying to tell them.
How about you read? Matter of fact, how about you? Since I've read it enough myself,
Hatfield is the Dennis Rodman.
No, I'm not. No. Don't call me Rodman. Don't. Now you're gonna get me real mad. Don't do that. Don't do that here. I want you to read for the audience this tweet that I put out late last night. Go ahead, Ed. Go ahead. Read it for the audience.
Since 2022, John Marshall has now won its past 23 playoff games. That's the regional playoff state tournament. Outscored their opponents 2,343 points to 1,055. That's an average. They're beating people at the tournament level by 56 points a game. Okay.
Now, you cannot show me, I know this point has been belabored and beaten to death. You cannot show me any human being with the brain that believes they should remain in Class 2 at this point. And I don't think John Marshall wants to stay in Class 2. At this point, what are we doing? 56 points per game. What are we
It's immaterial. Doing? They're in Class 2 because John Marshall's student population fits the Class 2 level.
I know. But
end of question, end of statement. That's one of those things I keep telling people. You got to understand why we have classifications. And I don't want to keep
understood that, but it needs to change. I'm sorry. Now, I will tell you this, whether it changes or not, I'm going to make this bold statement right here now. I don't believe John Marshall's going to be winning state tournament games next year by 56 points per game. I'm just going to leave it at that. I don't know what division they're going to be in. I don't know what. I'm just going to make that statement now.
Well, I would just make
change is coming. Who had that phrase, by the way? Change is coming.
Well, the only way that's going to change if Ty White's not at John Marshall and
okay,
whatever.
Maybe he gets another challenge and maybe something else. I don't know. I'm just saying I don't think that'll be the case next year. So
well, I'm just going to say it's not going to change until it changes because.
Well, I'm saying change is coming. Changes. Somebody had that. Who had that phrase? Change is coming. Somebody.
It's a song. It's a song. I can't remember who did it. Somebody out there listening will know.
Change
but you know, there's always been the case where people say, "Well, let their basketball program play region class level 6." I kind of like those ideas that you have to declare maybe before a year. Okay, well, what tournament you want to go into, even though your classification is a 2. Okay, well, we want to play in 6. Okay, when regional starts, you'll be. But then they're going to have to. There's some things you got to do with that. And there was a time in the state where you could play up. You could play up, but now when they went to the 6, you can't do that. And you know, I think that could be looked at too as a possibility. And again, these are things that we can have 2 shows and a half on about different classifications and whatever. But it's not going to happen.
Graham, by the way, Graham won on a game winner from Markel Ray. They beat Floyd County 62-61. You called that. I had my man Brian Harmon and the Buffaloes. They fall short. Good year, though, for them at 20-6. They got some young pieces like Noah Farley. He'll be back for them. So it's John Marshall and Graham. Graham, you've had a great year. You won a state football championship. I'll be shocked out of my mind if you win the state basketball championship.
Yeah,
as a matter of fact, I'll let anybody crowd surf me anywhere if they win that game.
That's a 50-point win. John Marshall.
I don't know about 50. It could be closer to 40, but we'll see. Franklin and George Wythe. I give the edge to Wythe, but man, Franklin's such a great story. I mean, Wythe's got shooters all over the floor. Reed Kurtner and company. Let's go to the class 6 down to 1 girls for a minute as we go through the brackets fast here.
Yeah, we haven't said nothing about the women.
Nothing
at
about
all
the girls all morning long, and we have not meant to shortchange it. We did reach out to Darnell Dozier, have not heard back from him. We'll get him on probably after he wins another championship, I'm sure. But Class 6 girls, it's Osborne Park in Manchester, which is what you had. I had Osborne Park and Robinson, so you got that over me. So Coach Wright at Manchester trying to make it back-to-back. He doesn't have Mia Woolfolk anymore, who's now in the SEC at Georgia. He does have his daughter, Rain Wright. And Osborne Park, Chrissy Kelly's team has been waiting to get there. I think they're going to put forth a really strong effort. Not sure they blow out Manchester, but I lean pretty strongly by 10 to 15 on Osborne Park. Manchester's good, but I think Osborne Park, they've been waiting for this. They're a little bit like with in Class 1 boys. I think it's their time, and they do it at both ends of the floor. They score in the 60s and 70s. They can hold you below 40 with the defense.
I have to kind of agree with you. I went Manchester for some reason over Robinson. Don't know if they're going to have the total firepower to get Osborne Park down. I won't be shocked a second if they win and win by 6, 7, 8 points. Would not be shocked. But I think Osborne Park, as you said it, this is their year. Let's go to
Class 5, where Class 5, you have the Lady Cavaliers of Princess Anne. They're pretty good. Micah Ojo. I like to say it's, that cartoon. It's Special Agent Oso, the unique stuffed bear. He's on a special assignment. You never seen that cartoon? My little kids I used to.
No, I watched the real stuff. Bugs Bunny, Yosemite Sam.
I used to tell my kids that I babysit my folks. I used to have that show come on, Special Agent Oso. They got Special Agent Ojo, and she is special now. She's talented. And Menchville was beating them. Kudos to Adrian Webb and his team. Really good team that has been in the mix before, won a state championship before. Maddie Leach came up from Jamestown, but didn't have enough in the fourth quarter to beat PA, and now it's PA and William Fleming, who avenged their loss in the region final to beat LC Bird in the Skyhawks building. So it's Fleming and PA. We say it with John Marshall. I think, Fleming, you've had a nice year. I just don't see PA losing, but they still got to play the game.
Yeah, I'm going to lean to PA. I think they finished the year undefeated, which is not many teams could ever have done that. But they've been there before. Just about everybody's been there before. They got the best player on the floor. It's going to be PA.
Yeah, I think so too. Before we get to that Class 4 game, it's both Hampton and Maynard from the 757 got bounced. Hampton won a championship a couple years ago, lost in the finals to Woodgrove a season ago. We have our man Mark Fowd, who said he's got the tunes for me. It's not my dad, DJ Hat, who's always the DJ musical. He says Sam Cooke saying a change is going to come in 64. It was added to the Library of Congress recording registry in 2007. So there you go. Little tip of the hat to Mark with Sam Cooke there. Let's go to Class 4, Heritage, Leesburg, and Salem Ed. Salem, I think a girls team that hasn't gotten enough love. They knocked out the reigning champion Woodgrove 59-49, 50-43 over Manor. Good balance. And Heritage of Leesburg has really been winning with defense here as they get to the championship round at 24-3. They took down Hampton and to hold Sean DeBailey's group to 31. I think it speaks to their defense. Can their defense disrupt the balance of Salem? That's the big question going into that matchup on Friday night.
Close one here. I'm having trouble leaning either way. Don't know a whole lot about them, but you got a team like Salem that can put those points on the boards, and Heritage Leesburg keeps you low. But they can put up points. I'm going to have to look into this one a little bit more if I can divulge in this one.
Me too. My quick blush thought, looking at some numbers from Salem, haven't done a deep dive, is they've got one young lady who's over, I think, 43s, everybody else below 20. So I think they need to have that second shooter. If they get that, I think they edge out Heritage Leesburg. They need that second complementary shooter opposite side of the floor to give them the floor balance, not just the balance in terms of production, offense, points, rebounds, and that here and there. But I think that's going to be a real early key in that matchup. Class 3, this was a bad job by both of us. And now James Monroe, we've been talking about, they're undefeated, having a great year. My man Devin Payne was out there for that one, and Devin should be covering some action for us at the Siegel Center on VirginiaPreps.com with his super recaps that he does for us on the site. James Monroe is undefeated, and for a reason. I'm not going to go against him, but I went against Laura Botetourt, which was foolish of me and you. Spotswood girls and boys thought they had a chance to go there, and they didn't. Coach Dodson at Spotswood, 500-plus wins, legendary coach. His team lost by 18, but Botetourt beat them twice during the season, so they sweep them 3 times, do it in their gym. And here's Botetourt with some pretty good staunch defense of their own, and they've got some perimeter attack too. So James Monroe might not cruise to victory in this one. This one could be a little dicier than they expect, but undefeated, 2 good storylines with James Monroe girls in 3 and PA girls in 5.
Yeah, I had Spotswood in this one too, but I got a feeling Monroe will pull this out. It could be a second team that finishes undefeated. Mark said he's seen them twice. Defense pressure is relentless, and that's going to be key on that bigger floor, because sometimes on the bigger floor, now the college floors are usually 10 feet longer than the high school courts, and you're running up and down that floor, and you're a kid that's playing a lot of minutes, you're going to start feeling, if you're a shooter and it affects your legs, you're going to have to rely on defense. I've seen it. We've seen it up close where people get worn out fairly quick. And then the other thing, and this is small, but I'm telling you it's going to happen. They have two lines on that court. They have the college 3 and the high school 3. And every year kids are bombing from the college line because it's further out. You don't see the high school line because they feel like they're stepping on the line, which is really the college line. So they just shoot behind the 3. Then you start thinking, man, they used to be a good 3-point shooter. What happens? Well, it's another foot distance. Tired legs, shoot from a college 3 instead of with the high school they should, makes a big difference in the game. And for people who don't think that happens, coaches, let me tell you something. You better educate your kids on that, because it will happen. I think defense has to pull you through.
I could be wrong because it's such a long week and we rotate, but I want to say it was you and Mark that did the Liberty Christian Meridian girls Class 3 final last year, where LCA completed the undefeated season 27-0, slipping by Meridian 44-43. I know Abingdon had a stranglehold for a couple of years prior to that, and ironically enough, neither of these two teams made it to the state tournament last year, I should say, in Monroe and Botetourt, whereas the two teams that got to the championship round last year, Liberty Christian and Meridian, got knocked out early in the playoffs. But it's not a total stunner because you look at how good some of the Class 3 girls teams are. Very good field in Class 3 girls.
Hey, we also got to give a shout out. I don't think we mentioned them all year. Grafton girls.
Yes.
Some of our local school right there, Bay Rivers. Look how far they got, state semis. So
good point.
Hats off to them, and we apologize, Grafton. We should have done a little bit more homework on you guys and had their coach on here too, because they're one game away from playing for a state title.
I love how perceptive Ed is watching the screen and the ticker. He's excited about his Raiders getting Geno Smith, which is for a later episode, later time. Let's go to Class 2 and Class 1 girls and finish up, and then my 3 quick hitters with Ed as we sign off on this edition of the show. John Marshall going for the girls-boys double dip. Remember, they lost last year to the ringmaster that is one Robin Dotson, Hall of Fame coach, Hall of Fame guy too. We love Robin out there. He's one of the very best in the business. And if you're doing a top 5 coaches list, we know in the girls list, Darnell Dozier and Robin Dotson are locks. Probably got to put Sandra Sawyer at Lake Taylor and Freddie Priester of Oakton as locks. There's 4 your 5, Ed. You just got to find with the 5th coach there on that top 5 list. But Robin Dotson, Central Wise, he wins it time and time again. How about Emma McCamus at Central Wise? Missed 3,000 career points. Absolutely incredible to do that. I don't think that story gets enough love outside of Southwest Virginia, where it's been well documented. She's been state player of the year multiple times. She's already got her college hoops career set as she is committed to play at East Tennessee State University. Just a dazzling talent, terrific young woman, and they got to take on John Marshall, who last year gave them some trouble early before Wise got the momentum late and won 58-41. I can't go against the Class 2 ringmaster in Coach Dotson. And Ridgeview battled them tough the first go-around, not as much in terms of the postseason here, regionals in the States. The second go-around, and Marshall knocked off Clark County, who had beaten an undefeated Prince Edward team in a state quarter. So like you said with Grafton, look at those teams that didn't make it. Darn good years with Clark County and Prince Edward and Ridgeview. They were in another classification. Might have turned out differently.
Absolutely. I'm going to lean towards Central Wise too. I got to go with Robin in this one. But the Marshall girls, if they learned their lesson from last year, they could flip this around. But Central Wise, I think they'll take this one.
By the way, we just go back for a second to go to Class 1. That Class 4 girls final we saw at Maynard last week in Portsmouth before the Hampton boys took down Churchland. And again, where the Crabbers shot 33 free throws in the fourth quarter because Churchland kept fouling in the last 5 minutes down double digits. That was a wild one. Overtime, Hampton and Maynard both had really good years, but we both came out of that one as entertaining and as exciting as it was. They were flawed. We thought they'd get to the final against each other, but they both were a little bit mistake prone enough that it could keep you from getting there. And I think that's kind of what happened to some of these teams in Class 2. Good enough to get there, but if you make mistakes against Wise, a team with the athleticism of John Marshall, obviously the boys' side is a different story, but on the girls' side, you won't so much get exposed as much as you won't get there. You just won't have enough for 32 minutes.
Yeah, I think Maynard girls, Hampton girls. I thought it was going to be tough for Maynard playing Salem out in Salem. But I thought Hampton would get by Leesburg. Shauna Bailey's another one of my favorites in terms of the women on the women's side. One of those few coaches that I said could coach, female coaches that could coach a boys program and be extremely successful as she is with the girls.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Let's go back to the Class 1 pictures. We finish up here our quick rapid fire style of the action. Another bracket that we got wrong. I had Honaker and Buffalo Gap in the title game. It's not Honaker. Instead, it is going to be, as you see on the screen there, George Wythe. They're going for the girls, boys double dip, just like John Marshall. They slipped by Honaker 34-31. Excellent defense after doing the offense in the quarters against J.I. Burton and Buffalo Gap. They're no newbie on the scene. They've been in these championship games before in their history in the tournament. And here they go against George Wythe. That's a toss-up to me. I don't have a real strong feel either way. I think that game's going to be a toss-up and maybe one of your better girls' games in the bracket.
Could be. This could be your overtime thriller. I'm going to lean towards Gap because I had him in this game, but I had Honaker like you did in there and not George Wythe. I'm going to lean, for some reason, I'm leaning, and can say it out loud, I'm leaning towards Buffalo Gap in this game.
Yeah, my early lean is with Buffalo Gap too, but it's an early lean. So that wraps up the championships. We're looking forward to it, doing it all with you out there. All right, we teased it. Actually, before we get to what I teased, because I'll forget this again. I want to get it out there now. I got a shout out. Thanks to my good friend Deb Strasbaugh out there. You know Deb, by the way, wife of Steve Strasbaugh at Kellum. She was a Hall of Fame coach of the year, gymnastics, many, many years. And she reached out to me about giving some love. We don't give a lot of those sports besides basketball, football, baseball, enough love, the field hockey, the soccer, which, by the way, if you want field hockey and soccer coverage, CoVA Sports TV, Chuck, Nick, and the entire team to do a super job with all the coverage. We have it for you with spring sports, fall sports, field hockey, lacrosse, soccer. Nobody's got it better for you. We got that covered for you, and I've done some of the broadcasts of that. But Deb Strasbaugh reached out to me, and I want to shout them out. She was a part of this program, but the Kellum High Gymnastics program, state champions, Class 5, and tell me this isn't crazy. I talk about babysitting kids, Ed. One of the young ladies that I helped my folks raise when she was a little tyke, the sisters, I got to give them a shout out. And maybe the mom out there and dad are watching out there. Chloe Boyce. Shout out to Chloe and Keegan Boyce. I think it's Chloe's on the team. I could be getting the wrong one here. But my folks sent me a picture. This is funny. After we got done with the broadcast last week, I get pictures of Chloe's team. It's Kellum High Gymnastics. And unfortunately, the resolution on the photos aren't great. I put them up on the screen. But my folks will disown me. But shout out to Chloe. Shout out to the Kellum High Gymnastics Girls State Championship teams. Job well done. We'll give you some time, maybe on a future episode, give you your just due because they don't get enough coverage in the internet, newspapers everywhere in terms of the media. But kudos to them. Pretty cool. And maybe Lindy, Chloe's mom, and Matt Boyce are watching out there too. But big shout out to them and Coach Strasbaugh. Thank you for reaching out to me on that. Job well done.
Yeah, and we've missed out on a lot of people wrestling. Some
too, yeah.
Wrestlers, state titles and
golf,
all that.
Golf's another one. We missed out on golf, a lot of things. Tennis. Yeah.
But like we've said, people, you got a chat line. Some of you know us. You have numbers. Call us. Let us know. It's not that we won't do it. We zero in on to where we get the most information and questions. What about? And that's football, basketball, and you mentioned a little bit of baseball. But, we don't want to overlook, especially state champion, regional champions, because it takes a lot to get there. Not everybody just gets there. So for those who we missed, we apologize greatly to you. It was not on purpose. And I have no problem going back and recognizing them. I have no problem going back and getting them to see if they want to come on and speak about their championship year. So people, let us know whatever we can do to make this show even better for you, where you would come in there and listen. Fine. We're always looking for those advertisers, sponsorship. We would need that greatly. We're even talking about doing something with this show to another level. Can't really divulge it right now. We had a meeting earlier this week about it, and it's something would be really neat.
Yes, we did, yeah.
Yeah, we can't, as Matt says, we can't divulge it right now, but if it happens, the only way that's going to happen is we need some more sponsorship. It's a little secret of what can happen, because what may happen is more eyes would be on us. That's the hint. More eyes would be on us. The hint. and the sponsors
Folks,
would
we'll
really
get a leash. We'll get a leash on Ed Young so I can rein him in. He can't talk as long, and I'll have the leash. I won't crack the whip, but I'll have the leash.
Yeah, that's another hint. I won't be able to really. I won't be able to go off. I'll have to have my own segment to go off.
Well, we've got your own segment coming up. And by the way, so shout out to Coach, thanks to Deb Strasbaugh for bringing it to my attention. But shout out to Chloe Boyce and her teammates, Kellum High Gymnastics. Maybe we'll get Chloe or the coach on at some point to talk about it. Pretty cool. Ed, we teased it. So now here it is. It's Ask Coach Young. It's like the mailbag segment we used to do. You got questions, we'll open the mailbag up in the coming weeks too on the program. But Ask Coach Young. And I kick this off with the first Ask Coach Young. So here it is on CoVA Sports TV and 757 Saturday Sports Talk. All right, it's a new segment, Ask Coach Young. And Coach Young, I got a question for you. What do you do when your Philips Norelco razor won't turn off? This is the razor right here. I took the head of it off. I've pressed the power button. I've held it down 3 times. It won't turn off. Please give me a suggestion besides buying a new razor because I'm cheap like that. Thank you. If you have a question for Coach Young, send it in to us on CoVA Sports TV. Help!
Well, what I want to say, my first instinct, I can't say it publicly, where to put that razor to get it to stop doing what it's doing. So I would say to, take it apart and find out why it's still going on and see if you can put it back together or just throw it away. Eventually it will die out and tell your cheap self to go buy a new one. Or do what Doug Craig, fine coach at Woodson, has been doing. Just grow the beard. Just grow it. I mean, see what happens. You could go incognito. That way you won't take as many hits as you normally do in public. Just be incognito. Matt Hatfield with a beard, the Beast number 2. They could be a tag team partner for Doug, and we call him the Beast. The Botswanian Beast. That would be a great name for him back from my wrestling days. So, but my original what to do with that razor, I can't say publicly because it'll sound harsh and anatomically it's tough to do. So.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah, and I figure you would come in and be rude enough to be shaving in front of general public.
Sorry.
This is why we lose viewers, because of the shenanigans
I apologize. I'm sorry.
cashew job does.
Won't ever happen again. I promise. Scout's honor. Won't happen again.
Like I said, if you put the razor where I would say you would first put it.
Hey, this is a family show. Family
I didn't
show.
say it. I let people, they would know.
Watch.
They would know.
All right. We're about out of time. Well, we've gone way over time today. Almost 4
Yeah,
hours.
we're way past
So we did top 5 coaches. It was asked earlier by Mr. D. Candido. He wanted to know if Ed Young can name his top 5 coaches in the state of Virginia. Now, I gave you 4 for girls. I think it's pretty easy. I just gave you Priester, I gave you Dotson, I gave you Sandra Sawyer, I gave you – who else did I give you? Priester, Dotson, Sandra Sawyer. Oh,
see the problem.
Darnell Dozier. And then you just need a 5th one for girls. You need a 5th.
Yeah, I would need to do it.
It needs a 5th in more ways than one. But go ahead.
Yeah, I would need to do it for boys and girls. Like there's a big discrepancy. There really isn't. Darnell Dozier would coach a boys program for state titles, also, no question.
So, do you want to leave the 5th spot for girls open and maybe come back to this when the tournament's over? Is that a fair?
Well, the whole problem is this. For me, I admit it. I don't know. I'm not as well versed on what's going on over there in the western part of the state as I am, obviously, over here, Northern Virginia.
Well, I'm trying to help you out with this. So your boys list, I'll give you like a yay, nay, or a lock. I'll throw some names out at you. So I gave you 4 for girls. For boys, Billy Pope at Northside, despite getting beat's got to be a yay, right?
Billy's got 600 some wins. Yes,
3 state titles. So is that a yay? It's a lock.
I would have to hear more names, but right now, yeah, you can put Billy in there.
A lot. Well, we're not going to replace him just yet. I think in Class 6, you got a lot. We've mentioned all the state championship coaches in Class 6. I think the longest guy doing it now, even though he seems like he's still a relatively young guy here, he's coaching his son as a freshman, is Dwight Robinson. So he's probably on that list. I think he's probably earned that right. And by the way, Keith Honore at Potomac, if he was still coaching, he'd be on that list too, I think. not active coach like you. We could see him resurface one day. But I think you're probably on the verge of saying Dwight's a lock or close to it. I think Greg Maynard, who we had on just recently, is probably a lock. 600-plus wins, going for his first state title. He's probably on that mix.
Right. And Dwight's in 400, isn't he? He's in the 400s.
400-plus. And now here's another question. But and Johnny asked this, maybe gets a little more preference. Are we grouping in private school coaches with the public? Because if you do that.
See, now I got to go more because.
Yeah, you look at Glenn Ferrello at Paul VI, who's won a lot of games and championships. It becomes a totally different conversation. Go ahead.
Well, now see, here's where I get ignorant.
All right.
When I start looking at top coaches, I'm looking at championships. I'm looking at wins. But I'm going to say this out loud, and if it makes people mad.
Don't ruffle the feathers. We're almost at the end of the show. You're going to say something I know it's controversial. Go ahead.
Right. I'm not – coaches that have the opportunity to recruit.
That could be you next year if you go to a private school. But go ahead, continue on.
Shoot, if I go anywhere, I'm joining this devil's side. I'm going to recruit my butt off.
No.
If you're recruiting
you won't get to heaven for dealing with me all these years, like you said. Go ahead.
If you're going to recruit a squad, I have trouble putting you in as one of my best coaches because not everybody does that. Not everybody has the opportunity to do that. Now, I know that could be controversial because a lot of private schools, that's how they get their players. They don't have a zone.
Right. So, but if the rules they're allowed to play within, let's not penalize them. But let's just keep, for purposes of this discussion, not to have you go off the deep end, which you're trending that direction. Let's just keep it to public for the time being. Okay. Not to
I like taking it close to the deep end and then throwing you in because it makes you get excited.
So we're going to put down at the moment, Pope's a lock. Dwight's close to it. Maynard's probably there. Class 5. I'm trying to think who am I leaving out that didn't make the tournament this year. Troy Mans is building a good resume over at LC Bird. Vance Harmon, who once was coaching, like he would have been up there if he was still coaching now. A.D. Douglas Freeman coached at Henrico. Jim Smith at Meridian's doing a good job. Coach at Chantilly. He's probably in that conversation. I don't know if he'd be there. A lot of guys have retired that have been elite level coaches. I'm trying to think who else that we had on our list earlier of best coaches. The boys one's interesting. And you know what? Success. I mean, Ty White at John Marshall's, people may like or dislike. You got to say his body of work is up there in the conversation. But I'd say right now of the 5 slots, I'm only putting like 3 that I think among active guys are like definites. I think are close to it. I think you're probably thinking Pope, Robinson, and Maynard are right there. And those other 2 spots can be revolving doors, really. I don't know that we have like girls, it seems more cemented with those names I mentioned, like your Dozier and your Priester and your Sawyer and your Dotson. Boys, and maybe someone on the chat line can jump in here. Who are we leaving out? I mean, who are we leaving out? No question, Robin Dotson's on that list, Mark, but we're leaving somebody out. I'm not thinking off the top of my head. And then we're going to get off the air and say, oh, my gosh, how do we forget about such and such?
Yeah, we're going to remember some people as we get off because I know, I mean, I've been fortunate enough to meet a lot of these people too, and I admire their work and what they do. And sometimes it's even those smaller schools like Robbie Cutchins at Franklin, those smaller schools. And Robbie, I don't know if I could put Robbie on that list right now. He's heading that way. He's done a great job. And quite possibly single A might be the toughest way to get on that list because smaller population to pick from.
Here's the thing. A lot of you coaches have retired, although you won't use the word retirement. So I look at the VHSL record book. Obviously, Paul Hatcher was one of the all-time greats. Bill Littlepage, who we lost a couple years ago. Hopewell, Jack Baker, George Lancaster, Rick Cormany, guys that have retired here lately. Bill Lawson
just recently retired, right?
Yeah, at Walter Brower at Hampton. Bill Lawson's dad. Remember, his son is now at Petersburg as the AD. Husky Hall, who you love it. How about Mike Cardellaro, who's now the AD at Perry McClure? Mike Cardellaro would be a slam dunk. So a lot of the coaches have retired. Maynard's on the winning list, and he's not retired. So I think it almost makes him a slam dunk.
I think Maynard is the most wins of active
guys.
Right.
And you'd have been in that top. You might have been second or third if you were still active, which we'll see if you're active or not come next year.
Well, put a pause on me because I've not announced my retirement. I don't plan to.
You're not dead. You're still alive, and you haven't.
I'm still free agent, people.
You still haven't seen your retirement papers. And on the girls' side, look at the VHSL record book, which you can find on VHSL.org. Oh, Billy Gibson at West Springfield, 800+ wins. My gosh, how did I forget him? I mean, Mike Talon, by the way, he's not coaching anymore, but he'd have been up there if he was still coaching.
Yeah, Mike.
There's a lot of Pat Deegan we left out, Alan Cantrell. And there's a lot that It's weird. The girls has more active. I wonder why that is. That's something we'll do a deeper dive in one day. But I'm saying with you, I'm giving you 80% of your homework is done on the boys' side. I'm sorry, on the girls' side. 60% of your homework is done on the boys' side. I mean, you have a couple weeks to get that assignment turned into the teacher, Mr. Hatfield. How about that?
I will do my
or maybe Mr. Deacon, if he's a teacher, he's the one who asked the question. Go ahead.
I will do my due diligence to find out some people. I will talk to some people at the States this week and see if I can come up with some names that we're not really mentioning that we should. Because some coaches are loud and brash. Some coaches are, down low, quiet, but they still keep on winning. So, and sometimes they get lost in the idea of talking about bets.
Well, I didn't want to turn in your homework assignment for you since you cheated off my paper. But are you good with the paper so far before you put your name on it? That those 7 names I just dropped? But
I would not. That's not my final draft. I'm not going to send that in there.
It's your rough draft. I got you.
Those are written in pencil. Right. So if I have to make some erasers, I have the option to do that. Okay. And people understand I have to take personal biases out in terms of if I really like a dude because they're whatever. No.
Or a gal. It doesn't have to be a dude. Yeah.
Or the gal. Right. You can't.
Because we know if it's people you like, this list can change. It's a very fluid list in more ways than one with the fluid word.
Right. There's nobody I hate. But there's a lot of people I really like because of personality. I know them, whatever. And I have to separate that. So, but I'll have to look at that and come up with the list if Johnny needs to know that, or people. And I've had people ask me that. People always ask me about top players I've seen or my all-time five.
Discussion. We do all these top players, which by the way we'll do an all Hatfield and Young team probably because we'll combine the state tournament. We didn't do this for football, which we should have done by the way. Combine it. I want to do the all Hatfield, like all Madden team on the Hash with Hatfield podcast. But we might do one where we combine the classifications and name like a 10 or 12 player team. I mean, you're helping out with the All-Star game. There's an All-Star
March. Hey, we need to talk about that. March 23rd, we have the BCCA, the Basketball Coaches Association.
We're going to get Chad Edwards on the show. Don't worry. We're going to get him on the podcast.
Got to do that because
talk about that. We're going to talk about some other things. The Mario Mullen All-Star game and his name coming to Bayside High School later this month. So we got a lot of stuff to do even when the state tournament comes to a close next week. And we got all the March Madness, our brackets. We're going to do a bracket contest. We got a lot of stuff to do. So don't worry about that, and we'll be brainstorming on that. But that's going to close out this episode, Ed. It's been a lot of fun. Almost 3.5+ hours. This is one of our – and by the way, the viewers and comments have been off the charts today. It's been going great. So we thank all of you out there for listening, tuning in, interacting with us. And we'll do it next week from VCU's Siegel Center.
Yep, state tournament time. It's an exciting time. Hopefully we see everybody out there. Come up, say hello, stop, talk to us. Some people tell me, hey, I shouted, you didn't say nothing. People, you got to get in front of me so I know who you are. I can't be looking around and, telling, because sometimes they mistake me for Hatfield, and if people throwing stuff at me because they think I'm Hatfield. So understand who I am. And if you want to throw anything, that's the guy.
Thank all of our guests for coming on, from Greg Maynard and Doug Craig to Mike Desmond and Robbie Cutchins, Cash Jackson, David Trey Miller, Kenny Harris of Green Run. Big thanks to Jack Lowe, our entire CoVA Sports TV team. For the coach Ed Young, I'm Matt Hatfield. We'll talk to you next week from the 804 on 757 Saturday Sports Talk. See you later, alligators.